Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and I'm back, as you can see, and it's a beautiful thing. We're slightly late, 7:01. Come on, Monday. What do you expect? I mean, normally we don't know what we're doing on a Monday. This time I haven't been here for a week, so I'll move slightly that way, shall I? It's time to say a very good morning to Emma Wolf.
Good morning.
Lovely to see you.
Welcome back.
Well, nice to see me back. What am I talking about? But anyway, what a week to be away.
What a week.
You know, somebody tries to behead somebody. You know, the government still sits there, you know, not knowing what to do. There's riots everywhere, buildings being burned down.
Well, rather than addressing the issue at stake, let's talk about the things that happen after it, when people are angry about the thing that happened.
The people that divide communities.
Which, by the way, is, you know, people literally trying to cut people's heads off in this country.
Quite divisive, that I found.
Quite fairly divisive, fairly shocking, actually, for all of us who live in this country, who've grown up in this country. But let's all get angry about people who get angry about it.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely staggering.
I mean, really.
And let's blame Nigel Farage for absolutely everything.
It's absolute gaslighting, isn't it? Of the peak, of the most peak example.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really interesting, actually, being away from Britain for just a few days, 5 days. I was in Cyprus, beautiful place. It was quite quiet because the war means a lot of people aren't going there. But it just strikes you how well run other countries are. You know, I mean, even down to things like the bin collections. You know, they've got, in order to stop animals getting to the bins, every house has got like a little sort of gated area where you can shut a door, and you shut the door on your side and you put the rubbish in it. And guess what? There's another door on the other side where the people taking the rubbish away take it out of. And so you don't get foxes, you don't get cats, you don't get anything.
Every single day in this country, our rubbish, and I had it this morning, is strewn across the streets because hungry foxes are trying to get into the rubbish.
You can't hide the rubbish anywhere, but this is such a simple idea. And it's stuff like that, and you think, and the roads, I mean, the roads were empty. The roads had no speed limits. I mean, they had speed limits, didn't have speed cameras, they didn't need them.
Don't need clutter,
they didn't have any potholes.
Street this, do this, don't do that, do that.
Right, I mean, it's just extraordinary.
And that's Cyprus, that's not Singapore, which is one of these unbelievably efficient countries, or Germany, where they all love to tell you what to do. It's just Cyprus.
Just Cyprus, where everybody's very pleasant to one another. They're all having a lovely time. They're sitting there hoping that the tourism comes back in the way that it was before. But, you know, and then suddenly, of course, I land back in the early hours of the morning on Thursday morning, and I had to pick up my car, Friday morning, I should say, and drive back to London. And as soon as I got in the car, and it was about 2:30 in the morning, sign on the M23, M25 closed. So I had to drive through South London, Streatham, all of those kind of areas.
In the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night, right, at 20 miles an hour. Even though the streets are completely deserted.
And how much roadworks were actually going on?
There was roads closed everywhere. I've never seen more cones. I didn't see one cone in Cyprus, right? It's cones everywhere. Bus lanes, night buses running with nobody on them. And I thought, this is mad. It's like some kind of Mad Max film.
But the work doesn't happen. They don't close the roads and then get on with it overnight.
No.
Right, an Uber driver was saying just yesterday, he said in Germany, they close the roads, they pay people double, and they do the work overnight. They need to replace the gas mains or whatever, all the stuff that needs to be done, road maintenance.
Infrastructure.
Be nice if they filled in a few potholes. It doesn't happen here.
No.
What they do is they close the roads, they put the cones up, and then they leave it.
My own street has been blocked for the best part of a month now because they're rebuilding some kind of bridge. So you can only get out to my house from one end. And it's like, it's completely mad. Anyway, that's enough about my holiday.
How we got to that.
But it was really eye-opening. And I know that it's not easy for people to go away these days, but you can find a cheap deal. But you go away and you just take a completely different perspective, in a way, on the country that we are currently living in, run by that stupid, useless, hopeless Prime Minister of ours.
Yeah, and also, and of course, STARMER, I mean, what can one even say? But also just how it makes one feel constantly on edge and stressed and struggling because you can't get around this way, because you can't do a simple journey, because everything costs 10 times as much as it should. It actually makes one feel, because when you get away from it and you go, oh, and your body actually kind of relaxes.
You actually do
you
feel
realise
like
the
that.
effect it has.
You do. And you realise that that's why people are angry. That's why people are on edge. It's because of the fact that they're constantly under threat. Because their lives are difficult.
It's a fight, isn't it?
Yeah, everything's a struggle. You know, I mean, you've got a young son. You have to take him to school every day. It's probably a nightmare at least 2 or 3 days of the week for one reason or another. Something doesn't happen that should happen. You know, I mean, we'll talk in a minute about the whole, ban on underage so-called social media access, which is already being slammed by teaching unions who are saying, why are you banning kids from using YouTube? You know, you're banning them from watching this show? You complete moron. I mean, what would you do that for?
It's so wrong-headed, and he's rushing it through because he needs to. Do you know what? Can I just say, Mike, it's such a relief to be able to say Makerfield. Every single programme I've done in the last week says at the top, we are in Purdah, do not mention the Makerfield by-election.
I feel
I'm not allowed. And then I thought to myself, cycling in, I thought, I'm allowed to say Makerfield. Makerfield, it's happening. And if I say Burnham, you then don't bother to read out a list of every single other candidate.
I'm not going to do it.
I literally haven't been able to say by-election for a week. Anyway.
But it's so ridiculous because you've got newspapers, and I mean, I think I've told this story before. When I was at the Mirror, I once put a page 1 into Anglesey on the day of the vote saying vote Labour. That was page 1, right? And Plaid Cymru tried to take the Mirror to the Electoral Commission, and it got thrown out because newspapers can do what they want.
Yeah, they can.
There's some kind of bug flying around.
There is.
Do you remember that scene?
Something you brought back from Cyprus.
Yeah, it's just following me around. Do you remember that episode of Breaking Bad, if you ever saw it, where he's like chasing, and he's in his lab making all the drugs, but there's a fly.
Oh, God.
And he's trying to catch the fly. And it's just the whole show, 45 minutes of him trying to get this fly. Anyway.
But anyway, that social media ban, he's rushing things out. So now, Keir Starmer is rushing out really important legislation which merits discussion. And you know that I've said for many years, I think there needs to be some kind of, we need to look at what is happening with children and screens in general.
Of course.
But this bizarre thing, 16 and 17-year-olds are going to have a curfew. Well, what time
Who's going to run this?
Okay, what time is bedtime?
Right.
What happens if mum gives them the phone?
Right.
Are we all going to have to log in and after a certain time? Alan Miller seems to be suggesting that we're going to have to log in again at night to verify, that we're allowed to be online after 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Have the tech companies signed up to this? How on earth is it going to be put into place?
It's more performative nonsense from Starmer, a man who will tell you a lie in order to get onto the next subject. That's what he does, basically. I mean, he's pathetic. He's going to get his arse handed to him by Donald Trump later on, because there's a G7 meeting in Evian, of all places. I've never been.
It's actually a lovely place.
No,
it's in, on the edge of sort of France and Switzerland, I think.
Oh, nice.
As I remember it.
It's
on the edge of Lake Geneva.
Yeah, where they make the Evian water.
Yeah.
So he's likely to be, isn't it funny, by the way, that, just as he's being accused of having no balls and having no defences whatsoever, we suddenly decide to board a non-military ship and say that this is the beginning. The Times,
this
is the Times, the mouthpiece of the Labour government.
Funny that, isn't it? Yeah.
Saying, the raid on Russian shadow vessels is just the beginning. Beginning of what?
In the early hours of this morning,
of what?
I personally authorised the boarding of a Russian flotilla.
I'm hard. I am.
I was up at 2 o'clock this morning.
What's an absolute waste of space?
It was an absolute waste of space. Anyway, he's rushing this stuff through. No one is taking any notice of him because he's a lame duck anyway. Right. He's probably got about 2 weeks left.
Well, even the people at G7 are going to go, we'll come back to that. Even the people at G7 are going, is he even going to be here next week? What's the point of doing any deals with Starmer?
So he's giving zero. He's just lost his defence secretary. That was another big thing that happened on Thursday, Friday. He's lost his defence secretary. He's got some lame duck. I mean, no one wants to take a job now with Starmer because it's like taking a job with someone who's literally on their way out of the door.
Yeah.
So he's roped in Dan Jarvis for a couple of weeks. Yeah. And now he's got the G7, and then he's got a big NATO summit in a couple of weeks in Ankara.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be there for that, because here's the thing: if Burnham, we're going to be talking to people throughout the show about Makerfield, because we can. Makerfield, just keep saying it, because the polls, it seems to me, all over the place.
Yeah, they are.
And they keep polling a really small number of people, which is one of my bugbears. Like
500 people.
500 people. It's not worth.
I could walk down my local high street and ask most people what they think.
So but overall, it would appear as though it's pretty close between Reform and Labour, and it could be up to the undecideds. I don't think Restore Britain's numbers are going to be as good as they're claiming they're going to be.
No.
Big piece at the front of the Mail today, which we'll talk about later as well, about links to neo-Nazis and all the rest of it. But I think the bottom line is that if, say, for example, Burnham gets in, apparently, according to what I've been hearing, there will be a massive amount of pressure on Starmer just to walk away, not to have a contest, because he'll get humiliated. He'll get killed.
He will, but he doesn't act like normal people act. I mean, in a rational, sane world, that would make sense. But he doesn't do. There are so many things that he should have just resigned over. I mean, Mandelson, that whole scandal, he should have just said, look, I'm banged to rights, and walked away. And he doesn't act. He seems to really shame and humiliate himself by hanging on and hanging on. So although I agree with you, I don't think he will. I don't think he thinks the way that normal people think.
He definitely doesn't.
I don't think his wife sits there with him and says, look, let's just go now.
At the
How
Drooping of the
miserable.
Colour. I mean, she looked even more miserable than he did. It's supposed to be a joyous occasion celebrating the King's birthday, and they're sitting there literally like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, STARMER alert, shall we? Because we need one, I think. We've already been talking about it for far too long without one. Let's go. Yeah, so here's what he said when he was asked. You're like, this is really funny. If you haven't seen it, this is STARMER being interviewed, I think it was on Friday, about whether he would stay or go.
I'm not going to walk away. I don't think we should plunge the country into the chaos of a leadership election.
But if that happens and you stand, wouldn't you be a contributor to that chaos?
Well, I don't think it should happen.
But if it does happen,
I will fight. And let me just be clear with you, that's not about personal vanity. It's not about stubbornness. It's out of a very deep sense of duty. I was elected to serve this country, notwithstanding the difficult circumstances. That is what I am doing. And in the last few weeks, others have made their own case. I've been concentrating on the job I was elected to do, which is to deliver for this country. This is about a sense of service and duty. It's not vanity, it's not stubbornness, it's duty.
You and I.
Duty. Who does that remind you of? Harry! Harry! It's all about duty and service. We will be of service to people. He's turning into Meghan Markle.
He's really deluded. He doesn't get it.
No.
He really...
What's going on with his hair, by the way? I mean, I know I shouldn't talk, but he's had it all flattened. It's all been flattened.
He's definitely had it differently styled.
Max Headroom kind of curl thing going on.
Yeah.
Now it's just all gone flat.
Well, is that a new... I don't know. Look, I can't talk. I've just cycled here in the rain, so my hair is a disaster zone.
Your hair looks great.
And so is yours.
Well,
I had
needs to
about
be
7
cut.
inches chopped off. Your head feels very light.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 2 days ago. So now I keep...
Of course, being a man, I didn't notice that.
No,
Sorry.
of course not.
But
Poll.
A poll. Oh yeah, there's a poll on me. I think
On
it says
you.
this. What have you missed most about Mike? His wild hair, 32%. Sparkling wit, 59%. Sniffles, 5%. I didn't have much of that actually when I was away. And my lisp. I've been accused of having a lisp before.
No.
I think
Oh my goodness, we can't even move nowadays without being told that we've got...
I blame Pooch. But Pooch was using some kind of ersatz, made in North Korea microphones.
I see.
He gave me a lisp, so. But I think
there's
we got rid
many
of them
things you could say about Mike, but I don't think he does have a lisp.
I don't have a lisp
that
at all.
is really
no,
bad.
That's Mike Tyson you're thinking of. That's not me. I don't have a lisp.
But this thing about duty, your duty is just to leave.
You are making the last bastion of the scoundrel, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you are making people miserable, and please just go, man, go.
Yeah.
Because frankly, he was elected by, I think, less than 20% of the country anyway.
Yeah, but he seems to think that everybody wants him to stay. He thinks that everybody thinks he's doing a great job and that he's got a duty to carry out what he was elected to do.
Not that he wants to do it, but he's doing it for us.
It's a service he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he'd like to donate his salary to somebody. A bit like Rupert Lowe does. I mean, there are many things you could say that are not great about Rupert Lowe.
I love that Rupert Lowe does that.
But the fact that Rupert Lowe absolutely, every single month, donates his salary from Parliament.
Yep.
And yes, he's a wealthy man, but so is STARMER. He could do it as well.
He absolutely could do it.
I think Rupert Lowe should be commended for that. And I think that's a really nice thing that he does. And of course...
but going back to that, the restore, and maybe a couple of percent that they've got, maybe as low as 3 or 4%, because at the beginning people go, they've got 6%, 7%. I agree with you, and I also think that actually it's so neck and neck. Sorry, I'm talking about Burnham and Reform.
Yeah.
It's so neck and neck.
Kenyan.
But actually, Kenyan, yeah. Actually, there is always the factor, the shy Brexiteer, the shy Reform vote, the people who don't stand up and say, I'm going to vote Reform. So there is that.
There is that. And one of our reporters, actually, that we've had on here from time to time was up there at the weekend. Everybody seems to be going up there. Dan Hodges seems to become like a Restore Britain campaigner. It's all very strange the way he's behaving. But one of the other guys that we use from time to time said that he was talking to a lot of people who were originally, when they answered the door, saying we're going to vote Restore.
Yeah.
And then when he said, well, if you do that, you might let Andy Burnham in. They said, in that case, maybe we'll go back to Reform. So it's all up in the air and
I think it is up in the air. And I think there's always that factor that people go, we'll vote Labour.
Yeah.
And then actually what they really do is what they really want to do.
Sure. And I don't think Burnham should be allowed to just walk into Downing Street, by this method. I think, and I think as much as I'd like to see Starmer being given a bloody nose by reform, I'd also like to see Burnham not succeeding in his plan, where he thinks that, you know, one minute he's going, oh, Mayor of Manchester's the greatest job I've ever had, I'm never going to give it up, I'm going to serve a full term. Then he just walks off.
And didn't you, was it, I'm sure it's you that pointed out, Mike, that it was actually his 30th.
26th, yeah.
He tried... This thing about, oh, Makerfield, it's where my heart is, I feel at home here, acting as though he really wanted to, he really wants to be the MP for Makerfield. Well, actually, he tried 26 other places. It was
Nadine Dorries that wrote about it first.
Constituencies.
But absolutely right. But it says on the front page of the Times here today, Andy Burnham is preparing to launch an immediate leadership challenge against Keir Starmer if he wins the Makerfield by-election. And so, and lots of people saying, like you just did, that John Healey's resignation was kind of a game changer because, again, Keir Starmer was proven to be a liar. He said that he was increasing defence spending. He's not doing anything of the sort because he can't afford to.
He can't afford to. He didn't even seem to have shown the DIP, the Defence Investment Plan, to his Defence Secretary. No. What a shambles that John Healey saw it on Monday and wasn't very happy about. Also, Mike, all this stuff about, oh, John Healey and Al Cartons, don't they have so much principle for resigning?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they could have resigned months ago. They knew that we've all known that we are massively underfunding our defence capability in this country, that we are not putting the resources that we need into our armed forces, right? So why didn't John Healey resign months ago? He's resigning, and Al Carnes has resigned because, do you know what? Rats deserting a sinking ship. They are leaving for that reason, and that reason alone. Because they're all getting out now.
Yeah, because they know that he's finished, right? Because let's face it, look at page 2 of the Daily Mail today. Labour have come under fire for caving into the unions after the government shook the magic money tree and found some more money for striking doctors. Another 6.6%, I think they've been given, to avoid a strike that was going to start today, right? They've also found...
Why? Because Starmer doesn't want that.
Yeah.
He doesn't want a striking country when he's trying to fight for his premiership.
No, exactly. And watching the Sunday shows yesterday, I think they've also found something like 4.5 to 5 billion for some new walking and cycling strategy.
Walking and cycling strategy.
So there's billions and billions washing around in all sorts of different places.
Of course
net
there's
zero, you know, funding.
Billions wasted by net zero.
Welfare and all the rest of it. And so they could very easily find the money if they wanted to.
Of course they could.
But they can't find it because they just... effectively don't really believe in the defence of this country.
They don't, and he doesn't get it. And the embarrassing thing is that was Starmer's only kind of strong point, was that he was always on the international stage. He was always, you know, the coalition of the willing and giving billions to Ukraine. I mean, he spent his whole premiership hugging male leaders on the steps of Downing Street. That's his thing, the full body hug.
Right.
Not just like, yeah, all right, mate.
Yeah.
Full body hug.
Yeah. Although, did you notice the German guy, Merz, didn't go near him?
Didn't want it.
He just gave him a quick handshake,
Did he?
you know, but Macron, he's all over.
Did he have gloves on?
Yeah, probably.
Hazmat suit.
Yeah. Sorry, don't even lower the tone. But yeah, and I remember doing this ages ago when I was at Talk, that, you know, any longer than 10 seconds for a man to hug another man, it's too long.
Yeah.
Well, frankly, you can't really hug a woman for any longer than that either, unless
when it becomes that, it's pressing.
Well, it's more than just friendship, then, isn't it? In a way,
it's not. It's not
normal for
two men
yesterday to hug each other for 20 seconds.
I know, we were timing it. Macron. Zelensky, all of that, I remember.
Oh my God!
But I mean, he had the prime minister of the leader of a country, it wasn't Singapore.
Japan yesterday.
Japan. And I tell you why, because I was leaving another show and I was cycling past the Dorchester, and I think she must have been saying the Dorchester. Yeah. Suddenly there were 50 motorcades. Wow. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Suddenly there were about 50 motorcades. They closed off the streets. They were whistling. They do that really aggressive thing where they whistle to clear the roads. Yeah. And this blockade came through heading to Westminster. So anyway, that might have been the Japanese lady. But...
was she in a Toyota?
I didn't see her.
Oh, just a quick question.
No. They were massive armoured vehicles. No, Hyundai.
No.
Anyway, on the steps of Downing Street, they shook hands.
Yeah.
Him and this lady. They didn't hug.
Well, because you wouldn't. Because that's the difference,
But they didn't do the full body hug.
But it's a bit like, I think we've spoken about this before, that people at work, you know, when I used to work at Talk Sport, there was one guy there who used to go up and hug all the women, right? And they all said to me, we really don't like this.
It's not normal.
He would go up to them and go, hi, how are you? And he'd sort of give them a hug. Or if they were sitting down, he would lean and give them... And it was like, that's a bit weird. What are you doing?
But we've talked about this as well with workplace harassment. And it's so obvious when it's not welcome. Like, why would you, as a boss or as the head of a department or the head of a team or the presenter on a show, Why would anyone start imposing like physical kind of contact with someone that wasn't giving? There are loads of people that you work with that you'd give a hug to, but not people that you just work with on your team.
No. And I think everybody knows the difference.
You know the difference.
People
if
do.
It's weird, it's weird.
If it's weird, it's weird. And Starmer's definitely weird about that whole kind of contact thing, particularly with men. You know, he feels he's obviously more at home hugging men than he is hugging women. It seems to me.
Or Victoria.
Well, I mean, he likes holding hands with her like a little boy.
No, he pulls her along the street.
That's also weird.
He pulls her along the street really hard.
Anyway, it's very weird. What else have we got here? Oh, here's one. I thought I'd get your views on this. It's quite funny because the World Cup's on. I'm sure you probably have no interest in it whatsoever.
What a sexist thing to say.
Because...
What a sexist thing to say.
It's nothing to do with you being a woman.
I am more of a football fan than you are. I've been a Liverpool fan all my life. Because I'm a woman, you've just said, the World Cup's on. I'm sure you have no interest in it whatsoever.
I didn't know it was going to be this
I am
easy
calling
to
you
wind
out.
up.
That was a sexist comment, Mr. Mike Graham.
I just assumed it
Ludo
would be...
and I have been following every single game.
I just assumed that you would think it was a bit of a ridiculous, over-promoted load of old expensive cobblers. That's why I don't particularly care about it, actually, because I think, you know, the sort of idea of these stories that get written, 3 lions on alert, right?
That's
England
stupid.
stars put in lockdown as their World Cup hotel was battered by an electrical storm.
Well,
they're in Kansas where they have tornadoes.
Tornado
right?
Alley.
I've been in Kansas when there's been a tornado, and you wouldn't make it a front page story. But Nick Parker, bless him, he's a mate of mine actually. I know him quite well. He's been there for a long time. They specialise in this kind of stuff. He wrote a story when they landed saying England stars get off to a flying start because their plane arrived.
I know.
I mean, that was it.
And yesterday. Right? Harry Kane got what happened?
His boots were stolen, then his boots weren't stolen. Yeah. There literally seems to be no story at all.
Did they recover the kit?
Yeah. Well, yes.
I mean, literally.
They've got it all back. Right?
I think it just, you know, they put it down somewhere and someone didn't bring it from the airport.
I mean, in the old days, you'd have accused the son of actually stunting it up and getting somebody to nick all the stuff so that you'd write about it and then give it back.
So funny.
Not that that's the sort of thing we used to do. But the reason I was going to ask you about this, and you're going to now accuse me of being more of a sexist, right? There's a story in the Telegraph saying that the wags are being kept 1,400 miles away. Unlike, do you remember in Baden-Baden, Germany, when they was
that was when they became sort of wags.
When they became wags and all that.
Vardy, Colleen Rooney, all of that lot.
Yeah. Apparently 1,400 miles is the distance that they've now had to be kept.
They might as well stay in England.
Yeah, what's the point of being there?
Is it, sorry, I'm going to be crude now.
Yeah.
Is it thought that sportsmen shouldn't have congress with their wags during? Is that the idea that you keep them away from the
quite a lot of them have a sex
distraction
ban because they worry that if you have too much sex, it's bad for your legs. Apparently,
legs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the sex they're having?
How are they doing it? Oh
I don't know, but I think it's something to do with the stamina factor, and particularly as they're playing in very hot conditions. The other reason, I'll tell you what,
what's this idea of keeping them away? I mean, I can understand it. Most of them have got about 4 children already. You know, they've got these wives and girlfriends. Yeah. I don't know why they're out there.
I don't.
I mean, do you bring your wives and girlfriends to the studio every day?
No, I certainly don't. This is the thing. They've got, and so they've got this.
I don't think they'd all fit in, Mike.
Thanks very much indeed for that. A bit under the belt, that. But anyway, so here we go. We get this situation where they've now decided to have football matches changed completely because they now stop for hydration points, right? Which effectively means that they've got a game of 4 quarters.
So they've now,
and they were actually discussing this yesterday on ITV. I don't know what you make of that, but I mean the whole ITV ridiculousness of the studio is just mad.
Is that
right? So. They're talking about, I think the game is now going to change forever because of America. And this is partly what I was meaning about you not being interested in it before. I'm still trying to get out of that, by the way. Where they said, it's now a game of 4 quarters. It's not 2 halves anymore. Because you don't stop in the middle of a game of football for water. It's ridiculous.
This is pathetic. And can I just go back to the 5-year-old?
Yeah.
Right, they were doing football training the other day. It was a fairly cool Sunday morning.
Yeah.
With Ludo and a bunch of about 20 kids running around doing football training.
Yeah.
Every 10 minutes. Hydration break. And all the children had to hysterically run over to the parents sitting on the sidelines and get a massive bottle of, massive...
Oh, yeah, the big bottle.
The tank.
They're still doing that.
And basically hydrate them.
Yeah.
Rehydrate the children.
Yeah.
They haven't done much. They're not going to die.
Yeah.
We used to run around for 7 hours without stopping for water in a heat wave.
Yeah.
Right? And these kids, every 10 minutes, they run to the touchline. They even have snack breaks. You don't need... This is why we have obesity. You don't need a snack break in a 1-hour football training session. You don't even need water. If they want water, fine, whatever.
And this all started, didn't it, with the whole Ramadan business, when the Muslim football players were allowed to stop during the game to have some kind of rehydration thing. They're supposed to be fasting for a start. If you're fasting, just fast then. And if you can't play, then don't play.
It's absolutely,
you don't stop a game of football because you have to have the water now.
The snowflakery is absolutely ludicrous.
It is.
I mean, the hysterical messages you get from schools going, "Oh my God, it's over 20 degrees. Don't bring your child in without a hazmat suit and a sun hat and sun cream."
Right, exactly right. And be prepared to get to hospital very quickly. In case there's a sunspot or something. It's insane. Another good story from the World Cup. Rod Stewart's in trouble because apparently he cancelled a concert in California a couple of nights ago because he had laryngitis.
Yeah.
And then he was spotted at the football with his family.
Busted
drinking wine.
That's so funny. Good for him.
And so,
but you shouldn't cancel a concert.
It's amazing how much sort of jip he was getting, for want of a better word.
What about Justin Trudeau, though? That's interesting.
What did he do?
Didn't go to the Canada game.
Right.
Former Prime Minister of Canada. Instead, he said, "Sorry, guys, boyfriend duty's called."
Oh, he has to go to Katy Perry's.
And went to the America match with Katie.
You're right.
Because she was performing.
And she apparently was terrible. I didn't see it.
Did you see the outfit?
She was wearing this really weird dress.
Charlotte, I wish we had a picture of this ridiculous silver robot outfit. But anyway.
And she did one song that nobody had heard of.
Totally terrible. And then he went to that, which is pretty poor. I mean, he should have been at the Canada game.
Yeah, I think so. Wow. Have you found it? Oh, there you go. There it is.
What is she wearing?
She looks like a sort of bad Christmas cake.
That is a lampshade.
It is a lampshade. That's exactly right. Yeah.
I mean, it's like the hoops that people, hoops that women in Victorian times used to wear. That is ludicrous.
Or the sort of Palace of Versailles kind of scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they looked a lot better than that.
They did.
Very strange. Let's have another idiot from Labour, because Peter Kyle was also on. This is a couple of days old as well, but it's so bad I just wanted to see it. This is Peter Kyle telling us about how brilliant the plan is that they've got for defence. Remember
this was car crash television.
This is perfect. This sums up the government. Have a look, Peter.
And when you see the plan, I think you'll see that we've put a lot of effort into getting it right.
When did you see the plan?
Well, I have not seen all of the plan. But I'm assured, and I, of course, am in touch and doing my bit as a department to make sure that we can do as much as we can to benefit the British economy to do so.
Absolutely, just on that point. So you haven't seen the plan, but you're saying you're sure that when I see the plan, I'll recognise that this government is getting it right. You haven't seen it. Do you know if Mr. Healy or Al Khans had seen the plan?
They have been, of course, they've been working very closely with the Prime Minister on the plan for a considerable amount of time. Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that. So they've seen the plan, and yet they resigned. They're not
happy.
happy.
We are now in the final points of implementing the plan and getting it right before release.
They saw the plan. They weren't happy. They resigned. You haven't seen the plan. You're happy. Why do you think they've resigned?
Because I have faith in a Prime Minister and the Chancellor to fund the plan and design a plan and lead a plan. Of course, then he is the Prime Minister that is fit for the moment that we're in.
Oh dear. That's literally like an episode from The Thick of It.
Yeah.
Remember when she says...
So bad.
He's the man of the moment.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, no, what's he said that for? He's such an idiot.
He is the Prime Minister who is fit for the moment.
For the moment.
What J.K. Rowling said, this is like the worst job interview or meeting you've ever had where you just literally die. You're sitting there dying.
Yeah.
You're dying.
You'd want somebody just to pull the lever and you go into a trap door.
Every muscle is just going, get me out of here.
So he hasn't seen the plan, but he knows it's a good plan.
Yeah.
And if Naga sees it, she'll know it's a good plan too. But the two people who have seen it have resigned as a result.
Terrible.
I mean, just ridiculous. There was a couple of nice comments about you earlier, actually.
I'll take nice comments.
Yeah.
And I'll wire the money to your bank accounts, guys.
Yeah, very good. Where is it? Kelvin Mackenzie's wives would fill this year. Yeah, that's true. I don't think they'd all want to be in the same room as him, though. That's another story. Kelvin, of course, doing his show. We should say, super chat here from Catherine. People are upset about people being attacked and murdered, not just because it is horrific, but also because it will happen again. And they want to protect their families. It will keep happening. Well, of course, that's what people are upset about. And that's the bit that these idiots in politics don't seem to get. Simon, thank you very much indeed for that. But yeah, the point is that good morning, Mike and Emma. How can Starmer restrict social media to 16 and 17-year-olds when he wants to give them the vote? Well, that's another good point.
It's another good point people have been making.
But I mean, as far as you know, because you've campaigned on this issue, and you probably know more about it than most, I mean, they haven't really said how they're going to police it, have they?
They've talked about facial recognition, which is extremely dodgy, very, very alarming.
What, you mean, so you can't get on your phone, you mean? Unless it recognises your face.
Exactly. So there will be some kind of biometric data.
Right.
There will be age verification. There will be cut-off points. But I mean, really, there are so many questions about how, in a practical sense, this works. Yeah. As I say to you, someone hands you, and your 18-year-old brother hands you his phone at 9 o'clock at your curfew, and you carry on using it all night. Sure. What time is bedtime? What time does this mean? Right. What if some children are up working late on their homework? What if they need to be online?
What if they're in a foreign country?
What if they're in another country? Yeah. What about 14-year-olds? What about 15-year-olds? What about my 5-year-old? Is he okay to be on phone? This is so... honestly, this is embarrassing kind of back of a fag packet ideas that one might have in a bar.
And most people who are thoughtful and who have been thoughtful about this whole issue are against it, aren't they?
But the thing is, 9 out of 10 parents, Mike, this is why we have different views on this, which is a good thing. 9 out of 10 parents do want some kind of discussion around how we can do this. 9 out of 10 parents who have been polled in widespread surveys say they are concerned about the effect of screens and tech and social media on their children. Right. That's good. But this kind of stuff that STARMER is rushing out is actually really, really, it's damaging to the whole kind of initiative.
Because as a mother, you have to be aware of it. I mean, I was
But we also have to take responsibility as parents.
Children. It is difficult, though, because, I know, for example, that my son, who's now in his 20s, was seeing things when he was young that he shouldn't have seen. Yeah.
The majority of kids, of boys starting secondary school, so age 11, 10, 11, have seen porn. Yeah. That is the world.
It was a lot of the violent sort of stuff coming out of the Middle East, a lot of the ISIS stuff that was coming out. Because kids are very good at getting around rules, right?
Yeah, of course.
And then part of the argument...
They're so much better than their parents
Part of the argument that I saw Lisa Nandy making yesterday was that, the thing is that if we make it illegal, it's a much better deterrent than if it's not illegal. And
honestly,
you go, really?
Honestly, young children and especially young people are so much better at this stuff in terms of getting around parental controls. STARMER he's not even out of the starting blocks on this. No. He and Liz Kendall don't know what they're talking about. Well, you talk to any of the big tech companies and they will list 100 reasons why and how this isn't going to work.
Yeah. I know. It's a very, very thorny problem. But, of course, Keir Starmer will be having a press conference at 8 o'clock this morning to explain exactly how it's all going to work. And you know what's going to happen. It will just be more lies, piled upon more lies, ambition rather than actual fact,
So what if you have parents and grandparents that live in Australia? You're not allowed to message with them because that is the way that most people, on WhatsApp, most people now, in terms of extended families, are you not allowed to talk to your grandparents in India? Well, that's very racist.
I know.
At night when they're getting up in the morning. I mean, all of this stuff.
Yeah, and teachers usually say already last night was saying, but we use YouTube as a resource. YouTube is a great resource for us. So don't ban children from using it, otherwise they won't be able to do their homework.
Well, they can't ban them. This cannot happen.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? Absolutely mad. Final story, which is just so horrific. I want to mention it. Hello, that's from Laura Jane. Have you seen this story from Brazil about the bungee jump?
Horrific.
I mean, oh my God.
I almost saw the footage as well because it was circulating.
Yeah, so this woman decides to go bungee jumping. The pictures that you can see, I mean, we're not going to show it because it's kind of mind-boggling, really. 2 guys are holding her aloft like this. They throw her off the cliff, as you do when you're going bungee jumping. Normally, people jump themselves. And there's no rope attached to her. So literally threw her to her death.
Absolutely heartbreaking, isn't it?
Isn't that horrible?
Really, really scary, actually.
That's just an extraordinary story.
I can't imagine that they didn't go through, or that she didn't say, "Where's my rope?"
Yeah, well, I suppose if you're doing that for the first time, you probably don't know. You just assume they know what they're doing.
You trust the safety.
But imagine that. Beautiful girl as well. It's just awful.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Awful. Well, listen, a pleasure to see you as well.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully, I think the rain's only going to be around for the morning, so you might have a drier run home, which will be better.
So let's hope.
I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. We will talk to... Who have we got doing the news, by the way, these days? I was hoping Edward Hughes had been fired in my absence.
I could sneak back into them.
Is he back on?
I know.
Well, I hope he's in good order, because I don't want any kind of nonsense from him. Let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes with your Monday Bulletin. Oh, what a sparkling Monday in Blighty. STARMER's charging ahead with a social media ban for under 16s, sold as protecting kids, but critics see it as the perfect Trojan horse for broader state control and digital ID creep that'll eventually rope us all in with age checks, scans, and endless oversight. Defence ministers are bailing over dire funding because competence is so last government. Royal Marines finally stormed a Russian shadow tanker. Better late than never. Tommy Robinson detained at Heathrow under terror laws post-Russia trip. Nothing to see here. Farage demands foreigners out of social housing, assisted dying returns for debate, and warmer weather's on the way. Classic Britain, more rules for everyone, same old delivery failure. Stay tuned to UK Live today with the Quirk Report with Russell at 10 a.m, followed by Mark Littlewood's World Cupper. Booyakasha. Remember to like and subscribe. Latest Tigers.
Hi there, Mark Littlewood here, in Mike Graham's seat. But as of Monday the 15th of June, I'm going to be in a different seat for UK Live, giving you everything you need to know about the World Cup. Is it finally coming home after 60 years? I'll be broadcasting from the beautiful town of Calador in Mallorca, which has vast numbers of sports bars for me to watch every second of every single match. We're going to have guests, chats, and don't worry if you don't really understand football or if you're not interested in it. This is going to be a sideways take on the biggest sporting tournament that mankind has ever seen. We'll never be offside, but you might sometimes see me bombing down the right wing. We'll be looking at what's happened in the previous night's games, what's going to happen in that evening's games, and we're going to be profiling as many of the countries as we can. There's 48 of them in this year's World Cup. What do you need to know about not just France and Argentina and Spain, but Curacao, Haiti, the Cape Verde Islands, the long shot minnows. Be there from noon weekdays on UK Live, joining me for a World Cup. See you then.
The revolution will be televised. The revolution will be televised.
Very exciting day today, by the way, because Mark Littlewood will be joining us from midday. He's on the show today as well, actually, to talk to us about what's going on in the World Cup, but also just generally in the economy, the state of it. But Russell Quirk, also, who was here last week sitting in this chair, will start his own show at 10 this morning. So when this show finishes at 10 o'clock, you'll be able to watch Russell Quirk for another 2 hours, 10 until midday, every single day. And he put out a great picture yesterday of his nose being waxed. I don't know if you saw it. We could probably find it from his Twitter and maybe play it just before we find Russell coming in to do a handover with us, which will be the first time on the Mike Graham show that we've done a handover to the next show. It's very exciting times. In addition to which, of course, UK Live Online is now a thing. I came in this morning and saw the studio for the first time. Pooch has built an entirely new studio, which is fantastic. And there's a few sort of people lying unconscious in there because of all the fumes from the paintwork and everything. But no, it's absolutely fantastic. And Carla says this, Carla J, on Substack, UK Live sounds very exciting. Really looking forward to it. Can't wait to have Mike back on Monday. And it's my lad Daniel's 21st birthday as well. What an amazing day. So excited. Lots of cuddles for Ziggy. So a very happy birthday to Daniel. Well done. And it's also apparently Donald Cameron MacLeod's birthday of the Clan MacLeod. This is always a big red letter day for me because it's a day that he becomes the same age as me. And he says he's born the same day as Noddy Holder. From Slade, of course. Come on, bring the noise. And that's him and Donald, of course, is now the same, not only the same age as me, but he's also wished himself a happy birthday. Sent us a message wishing himself a happy birthday. Not that he's in any way narcissistic, obviously, because that would be the wrong thing to accuse him of. But extraordinary stuff, absolutely amazing stuff. Got lots of really great messages coming in. Having to lip read the news today. Apparently the news is a bit quiet, Charlotte. I don't know if we can do anything about that. Happy birthday, Donald MacLeod, says Simon. Mike, we missed you, says Spring. And here's one from Spring Fauna, from El Cid, who says Slade were a good band. I don't know about that. I mean, funnily enough, I remember once when I was a kid, my sister and I were playing football in my driveway where we lived in London, and suddenly Jimmy Lee, who was one of the members of Slade, pulled up in his great big white Rolls Royce about to buy the house opposite. He never did it in the end, but that was kind of quite an exciting day for us, it must be said. Now, other things to tell you about. Coming up on the show later on today, Ad Widdicombe is going to be here, Marilyn Hawes is going to be here, David Vance, Connor Tomlinson will join us as well for the first time. Alan Miller is going to talk to us about this this ridiculous idea of a social media ban for kids under the ages of 16 and also for kids under the ages of 18 as well. Other stories, of course, on the front pages that we haven't quite talked about is the peace deal with Iran, which is apparently now going to bring the oil price back down sort of into the 80s for a barrel. Peace deal with Iran is done and the Strait is now open. That's according to the front page of the Times. A deal for immediate and permanent peace between the US and Iran announced last night, overnight. So it's still kind of developing. They're talking about opening the Straits of Hormuz like straight away. And as I say, the oil price has plummeted as a result. And apparently, the next thing that's going to happen is that they're going to sign the deal, the peace deal, on Friday. The other thing that I read was that the Iranians are asking for something like $300 billion in reparations so they can rebuild all the bombing damage that was done by the Americans over the course of the last sort of 6 or 7 weeks, or maybe even more. Maybe it's more like 12 weeks. But, you know, it'll be good news if that deal is done. A lot of people were saying to me before, what's Trump doing? I don't think he knows what he's doing. But if he gets the deal and the Straits of Hormuz get reopened and the Iranians don't get to produce any more nuclear, weapons, or any sort of refined uranium, as they call it, that's a good thing, isn't it? I would have thought. Coming up, as I say, later on, Mark Littlewood is going to be joining us for the first time for his World Cupper show. I don't know if he's here yet, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, he is? Okay. Let's talk to him then. Mark, a very good morning to you.
Mike, great to be with you. Welcome back to the hot seat.
Very much enjoyed being away, I have to say, but now that I'm back, it feels as if I haven't been anywhere. You know what it's like. You suddenly just get back into the groove. I was watching a bit of football last night. I must say I'm really looking forward to your show because the coverage is fairly nauseating, it seems to me, from the sort of mainstream media. You've got the BBC sitting in Salford because they couldn't afford to go, pretending that they're there because they're using a big sort of flat screen behind them with pictures of Dallas and Toronto on them. I mean, I think even we wouldn't be that dishonest, you know. At least we say where you are and what you're going to be doing. And then ITV, the complete opposite extreme, spending an absolute fortune sitting in Brooklyn with this massive sort of seascape landscape behind them in Manhattan. But I find it's all gone a bit woke, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got a bit woke. It's also a bit trivial. Going to be very different on my show this afternoon from noon, Mike. As you can see, no expense spared with the UK Live set here, right? I mean, you know, can you imagine, you know, if we had a license fee, how much money we would have spent on this license fee? But no, we're going to be digging around some of the... what I love about the World Cup, okay, I love the football, but it's all the weird things that happen in the sidelines, right? Yeah. I'm still trying to calculate exactly how much alcohol was consumed by 30,000 Scotland fans in Boston and Massachusetts over the weekend. The governor of Massachusetts said, I think only half jokingly, we may have to put out an SOS to Vermont, Maine, and Canada to quickly deliver more lager into Boston. Right? This is way better. Finding all these stories is way better than Scotland actually beating Haiti 1-0 on the pitch, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. I mean, it's a very, very Scottish thing as well, isn't it, to celebrate like mad as if you'd literally won the World Cup because you beat Haiti 1-0 in what can only be described as a very fortunate goal that went in after hitting about 3 players on the way. You know?
Exactly. But look, they're going to love it. Look, there's 48 different teams in this World Cup, Mike, and probably only 6 or 7 really have a realistic chance of winning it. Scotland, I'm afraid to say, are not one of those teams. So they're just going to enjoy it while they last, right?
And in a way, that's quite nice in a way, isn't it? But it's also hard to get away from the stench of hypocrisy from the likes of Infantino and the FIFA money tree and the fact that there's so many empty seats and there's going to be empty seats because they've sold a lot of tickets to a load of touts who can't get rid of them.
Yeah, this is my theory, Mike. Unfortunately, Infantino, the head of FIFA's grasp of economics, seems to be even worse than that of Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, right? They were supposed to have for ticket prices what they call dynamic pricing. So that's to say, it's not like a ticket goes on sale for, say, $200. It's that the price goes, you know, moves around depending on demand. If tickets are flying off the shelves, the price is supposed to go up. If tickets are staying on the shelves, the price is supposed to go down. But they seem to have forgotten the downward bit of that equation, right? So if they can't fill the seats, just start selling them cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. It's a bit like buying an airline ticket, right? If you turn up at the last minute and there's only 1 seat left, it's going to cost you a fortune. But if the airline realises they've got loads of seats to get rid of and the plane's only a quarter fill, you'll be able to get them cheaper. But they don't seem to have the downward side of it. And if you are going and following your team across the World Cup, bear in mind you're having to fly from city to city, right? You're not just going to be based in one place. So some people are saying to go and watch 4 games, perhaps 5 games, crisscrossing the USA, Canada and Mexico to follow your team, whether it's Scotland, England, Haiti or anybody else, could cost you 25 grand.
It's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely mad. But similarly with the oil price, I was listening this morning to one of the usual apologists for the petrol pump attendant scenario, where they're saying, "Oh yeah, it's great to see the oil price coming back down to $80-something a barrel since the announcement's been made that peace is broken out and the deal's being done." But don't expect to see any movement at the pump prices for a while because obviously they've got to remove all the mines in the sea. And you go, well, hang on a minute, they didn't wait to put the prices up when they'd already bought petrol for a lot cheaper, and then suddenly the prices went shooting up to £2 for a litre of diesel, and now it's not going to come down for ages because apparently we can't do it yet. Well, really?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we got to keep a beady eye on this sort of stuff. Sometimes they'll say, and this is why you might actually find prices pretty different in different petrol stations close by to you. So keep your eyes peeled. Usually it's a pretty competitive market, but I gather that some petrol stations are kind of on a longish term contract. So if petrol suddenly gets a lot cheaper for them to buy on the open market or to source on the open market, they might be locked in at the old price for 2 or 3 weeks. That's at least their reason. But others, much more on the day price. So well worth shopping around if you need to fill up your car in the next day or two. Could be big differences in prices. But overall, Mike, look, good news that in Iran, isn't it, that it looks like some sort of half-arsed peace deal's been signed, and peace is going to reign, and getting the price of petrol down would be helpful. All energy costs, that's absolutely the lubricant of the economy. They go through the roof, has a knock-on effect on everything else. So let's hope at last there's a little bit of good news for us.
Well, that would be good. I mean, no doubt STARMER will try and claim it. We'll come back to the football in a minute, but just before we leave the economic side of things, the big argument's going on at the moment about whether or not STARMER's got enough money to actually fund the defence budget that he claims he's going to increase. He's off to the G7 today, where he's likely to get his backside slapped by Donald Trump for not only running a country into the ground, but also for not spending the money that he promised to spend, which is what Trump asked for last time he was at the G7.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's getting desperate now, isn't it? Do you remember, Mike, going back to the election campaign a couple of years ago, and in the immediate aftermath, we were told that they were laser focused on economic growth, and economic growth was their number one priority. Their number one priority. Well, we now hear from the Prime Minister that defence is the number one priority. Well, I hope it's a higher number one than growth was, put it that way, right? Because they don't seem to have done anything about growth. And obviously, if you've got lots of number one priorities, if everything's a top priority, you don't really have any priorities at all. And there's that famous old quote, isn't it, that, to govern is to choose. And basically, you've got to decide what you're going to spend the money on. And in effect, they've decided that defence is not the top priority. Keeping the welfare bill high is the top priority. And, every pound you spend on the welfare bill is £1 less, really, that you can spend on defence. It's pretty much a zero-sum game. And they've decided that the defence of the realm isn't top of the list. And that's maddening, really. Yeah. So, we get all of this word salad, all it's a number one priority, all of the nice mood music around it, but none of the action to back it up, Mike.
Well, that's the problem, and which in other worlds and in other businesses would be called flat out lying, wouldn't it? Because here we've got a Prime Minister who said he was going to do one thing, and even his own cabinet members believed him and said, all right, then we'll sign off on that, given that you've promised this in the future. And then we get to the future, and then the promise actually gets broken. So, he's got. I mean, now we're saying Dan Jarvis, the new Defence Secretary, is re-looking at the numbers to see whether they can find the money, but they haven't got any money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Essentially, we've now run out of road in terms of the public finances. You've either got to cut from Department X in order to spend more on Department Y, so you shuffle money about and you just actually genuinely decide one thing is your priority and something which is lower priority is going to get shrunk or going to get abolished, so they can move money around, but they don't seem willing to touch the colossal welfare bill. Or, theoretically, you can put taxes up, but it looks like the UK economy is now taxed at the max. What do I mean by that? Well, if you put rates up even higher, so let's say you jacked up income tax or capital gains tax or something, you might actually get less money coming into the government because people will refuse to work such long hours, or you'll inhibit investment. So we're taxing at a proportion of the British economy, Mike, the highest in our lifetimes now. It's absolutely ludicrous. So you probably can't raise taxes meaningfully to pay for anything. Or you can say, we'll address this problem in, at a later date, and we will borrow more. Well, borrowing is now pretty much at the max because we have been drowning in debt. We have been borrowing every year. We haven't had a balanced budget for 25 years. Completely ridiculous. A quarter of a century without once balancing the books in any given year. So you've really got to look at cuts from one department to spend on the other. But this government completely incapable of doing it. They tried to just trim the welfare bill a bit, got absolutely nowhere. So unfortunately, we're stuck in that rut until we look at the north of £1 trillion the government spends every year and says, look, which parts of this can we jettison in order to focus on the important parts? Yeah. Because generally speaking, Mike, most people would say, I don't think this is a controversial point, that the key things that government needs to do above all else is defence of the realm, protection of the borders, and making sure you have a functioning justice and police system. Those should really be the top priorities. Everything else, I think, has to be downstream of that. Exactly how many free breakfast clubs you can open across the country. You might want to do it, but that's a much, much lower priority. Well, those three, look at what a mess they are in. I mean, our borders are not protected. Our defence is rusting away in dock and permanently under repair. And don't get me started on the police and justice system, in tatters, really. So I would prefer a government that actually said we're going to mean it, that those are our top three priorities, and everything else will either have to be cut or have to wait or have to go until we've got those things fixed.
But the trouble is Starmer's looking more and more like the guy who agrees with the last person in the room, promising them everything, just so that they'll think he's a nice bloke. And they won't give him a hard time. And that seems to be where the problem is. Just for pedant of the day, by the way, before we leave you, Leyland has tweeted or has put on us on our YouTube chat, where's Mark's Union Jack? Should I explain to him or you that the Union Jack isn't actually applicable since there isn't a Great Britain team in the World Cup?
Yeah, that's right, Mike. So it's the St George's flag and the St Andrew's saltire, obviously. I think you can probably just see over my shoulder here, next to the Brazil flag, there's just the beginnings of a St George's cross there. But fair question, because I actually bought 2 sets of the World Cup flags, and one of them, which was a knockoff from China somewhere, did actually have the Union Jack on it. Yeah. So I'm sending that back. I wanted a Scotland flag and an England flag. I didn't want them merged into one.
No, but also, even as you explaining there's no Union flag, there actually is one over your left shoulder, because I assume it's part of another flag. If you just turn slightly the other way. That way, there you go. So you've got... Is that
New Zealand and Australia, of course.
Yeah, so New Zealand and Australia have got... So actually, Leyland, not only are you a pedant, it's not a very good pedant, because there is a Union flag, and there it is, part of another flag. So there we go. Yep. So what have we got coming up today? What's the highlight today?
Oh, it's great, because we're going to be reflecting a bit. Scotland have not won a World Cup match, Mike, for 36 years. So although I'm sure that all the Scotland fans would be out on the lash anyway, they're doubly out on the lash because they've won their first match in 36 years in the World Cup. And we have got pop legend Woody from the Bay City Rollers, who have re-released their song Shang-a-Lang, which has now become like the unofficial anthem of the Tartan Army. So I want to know how the hell that became the unofficial anthem of the Tartan Army. You do realise
that you're now inadvertently sucking up to Donald McLeod, one of our great friends and partners here on the Mike Graham Show, because he puts them on, the Bay City Rollers. In fact, he's got the show on tour, I think, at the moment.
Yep. Well, I'm always happy to give, Donald a bit of a helping hand. So I want to know whether, I'm hoping Woody turns up because of the reputation of the Scots. They'll still be out on the lash, right? A day and a half later. And let's be honest, it might be another 36 years before they've got anything to celebrate. They play Brazil and Morocco in their next games, which I think bodes pretty ill. I'll be joined by my wingman, Glyn Brailsford, who's my kind of go-to stato person. He'll be telling you everything that you need to know that you might have missed. And what we're going to do is have a little bit of a deep dive into some of the most obscure countries in the World Cup and tell you everything you need to know about them. And I think we're profiling the Cape Verde Islands today. I'll also be providing, because I'm often on your show talking about economics, Mike, some financial advice. Well, to put it more clearly, I'm going to be giving a betting tip every day. Excellent. And we'll see how I go over the course of the World Cup.
That's good.
And we've got Leo Curse on as well, the stand-up Scottish comedian. So quite a Tartan Army feel for it today from noon on UK Live Online.
Superb. Well, I'll tell you what, wish you luck, and great to have you on board, by the way, and welcome to UK Live Online. It's absolutely fantastic. Russell Quirk with a show at 10, Mark with a show at midday. You're looking absolutely fit and well, so you've got a long campaign ahead of you to go. What we'll do is we'll play this. Should we play the bit of the Tartan Army as we say cheerio to Mark? Here they are marching through Boston last night. Yeah. Don't they see anything like this in Boston? Brilliant. Yeah, that'll do. Funnily enough, Donald actually sent me a message saying it's not so much the Boston Tea Party as the Boston Tenants Party, but no doubt that's that. Mark, listen, have a great show. Brilliant to have you on board, as I say, and we'll see you probably tomorrow for the next instalment of the World Cupper with Mark Littlewood. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Coming up to 7:57 right now, we're going to talk some more about this press conference that's going to be held literally in 3 minutes' time. Keir Starmer is about to get up to announce his ban on social media for the under-16s and the under-18s. Nobody's quite sure exactly what it's going to be. Nobody's quite sure how it's going to work. But let's talk to Alan Miller from the Together Declaration to get his take on it all. Alan, very good morning to you, sir. Welcome.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to see you, sir. I don't know what on earth Keir Starmer thinks he's doing, but generally speaking, even those people who would like to see some kind of protection for children don't seem to think that what he's about to announce is going to either, one, work, or two, be a good idea.
That's right, Mike. What we're seeing across the board is absolute complete. People are flabbergasted. People are furious, quite rightly so. You've got, on the one hand, parents who've made it very explicitly clear, like Molly Russell's father and many others, who are saying this is a sledgehammer, this is the wrong approach. It could actually make children more targeted, could be more of a problem. You've got people that are parents saying, look, I'm very diligent with how I actually put controls and monitor what my children do, but actually they get a great deal out of having relationships with people internationally in the States at different time zones, that they actually learn a great deal from social media, but our interaction ensures that that's governed. And of course, then you've got the enormous issue and challenge that it's not that it's just facial scans linked to facial recognition, but it's going to force the entire adult population, the entire British public, to digitally ID verify in order to get onto the public square and to participate. This is absolutely outrageous, and he's doing it, he's rushing it explicitly so, also because of, as has been pointed out, the Makerfield by-election, because of the concerns of his own position. And it looks like Keir Starmer sees this as his legacy project. It's authoritarian. It's entirely in keeping with the push and the shove and the drive to get digital ID onto everyone. It's saying he's going to go further than they have in Australia. And it should be noted that in Australia, not just with VPNs, but in a range of other areas, young people are still going on there, but it's been an abject failure. But the key question is, Mike, and, you know, because obviously any decent and the person and the majority of the British public, of course, do not want to see horrific things that for their children. They want to make sure those things are not seen. But there's a question of the role of the state. There's a question of the role of parenting and due diligence and all sorts of measures that can be taken. And this is a way that he's basically infantilizing the whole of the British public and creating a situation where we're going to be forced to have to digitally verify to participate. And we're saying this is absolutely unacceptable. And very soon we'll be announcing some more things in terms of measures that can be taken. But right now, I'd say people should all be messaging their MPs, should be messaging Keir Starmer and the government and saying this is unacceptable and it must not happen.
But how do you see it being actually enforced, Alan? Because, I mean, I know that there are ways, I suppose, that some of the social media companies that we all access all the time have got, you know, two-stage verification. You have to show who you are. Some people don't like the fact that that's a thing now where you used to be able to be anonymous. It's now less likely that you're going to succeed if you're going to be anonymous. I just don't understand how the government will police this, because, you know, I put it out a tweet last night. Well, are you going to get police knocking on your door saying, excuse me, you know, you've got a 10-year-old child in here watching porn or something? I mean, is that going to happen?
Well, I mean, it's a very important question. Firstly, what will happen is it will be like having a spy on everyone's phones. The spyware technology to scan constantly our phones. It's why we at togetherdeclaration.org, we've got a pledge, and you can take the pledge to say you will not be downloading any government ID onto any device. But your question's an important one, because if you think about all the issues we've had, for instance, with things like non-crime hate incidents, born out of an idea that you think, well, okay, fair enough, you don't want people to be hateful, although what constitutes hateful has certainly been up for big discussion. But what that's ended up meaning is precisely been that. Police officers knocking at the door, people being arrested, ongoing. And even though some forces have said they're stopping it, we still have enormous amounts of people being arrested for what you would call a speech. Some people would call it crime, but for speech. And that's precisely one of the concerns. And also a situation where it's stifling and suffocating the ability for people to interact with what is now the public square. I mean, the digital arena is the public square. And absolutely, we've got some terrible things that do go on in parts of it.
Yeah.
And that needs to be pursued and dealt with. But the idea that you have a blanket approach that then just forces all of the British public further into this digital ID dystopia is absolutely unacceptable. But we've seen as well the irony of this, that it's a brutal irony and it's terrible. But people that are saying, well, we're doing it to protect the kids, were absent and had a dereliction of duty when it really came to protecting so many children throughout the years with the rape gangs and those specific situations. Yeah. We've seen that across the board. So, you know, it's very ironic, but it's also very dangerous.
It is indeed. Now, you're up in Makerfield at the moment, I understand. So what are you finding up there? Because I'm obviously fascinated by what's going to happen on Thursday. I think a lot of people are. Lots of counter accusations being made from various different parties. Restore's saying one thing, Reform saying another. The polls seem to me to be not very reliable. So what have you found in terms of the likelihood of what's going to happen on Thursday?
Well, at a very impressionistic level, when you go around the constituency, and we've been going around giving out flyers door to door, meeting people in the high streets and a range of areas all through the constituency, you see a lot of boards. You see a lot of Labour boards. I mean, I posted some with a pub that's plastered. Actually, the pub's closed down. Too many pubs are closed down here, but plastered with Andy Burnham posters. And then you'll see a lot of Reform boards, sometimes Labour Reform. Down Bolton Road, you'll see a lot of them all happening together. Then you have got also Restore boards and some flags. I haven't seen any others, if I'm honest. We haven't seen Conservative, Lib Dems, and certainly no Greens. They don't have HQs really. But on the weekend, there was a big turnout of people coming in. We went and visited where the Labour HQ was. They had a lot of people coming from around the country. So too with Restore and Reform. So with Restore had a lot of people turn up, and so did Reform. When we're speaking to people and talking to them, it's interesting because obviously this constituency red wall, very much for Brexit, not for Remain. And Andy Burnham has been a Remainer, but sort of kind of stepping back a bit. He's trying to a little now. He's sort of seen as he's presenting himself as not being part of brand Labour. And I think that because of so many people are so furious with Keir Starmer, he is getting a bit of an upswing from that. And look, there's been various polls, and
they must have short memories if they think he's not part of the Labour movement, because all these people that he claims have been ruining Britain for 40 years. He's one of them.
Exactly. He was a Blair acolyte. He was very involved in all of that, and you can just see, but from his track record, what that was all about. He's trying to do what you might call a Boris and say, because of what's happened in Manchester, although there are some grave concerns about what's happened in Manchester as well, but because he's got some of the economic output increase and everything, obviously it's got to be said that it's limited. And even though Greater Manchester has experienced some upswing with that, all of the surrounding areas have had a real terrible impact as well. And this is part of the story of, it wasn't just Gorton and Denton, this is the story of Makerfield as well, that there's so many shuttered retail windows. And it's the thing that's really makes an enormous impact on you. The amount of the high street that's closed down, and then there's only really a few things like vape shops, and obviously supermarkets, but there's kind of many boarded up shops, pubs that are closed. I think the thing is that it's remarkable even to consider that since 1983, Makerfield was, since its conception in this constituency, has been Labour. And let's say that we take what I think is the more reliable polls. If you say that around 45 or 43 to Burnham and around 40 floating for Reform, that is the case. I mean, if you think even a couple of years ago, wouldn't have got close to anything like that. So this is a new moment, what people call populism, this idea that people are saying they've fed up with the attacks on their private lives and also on democracy. And it's a kind of a sense that the public are not happy and satisfied with this. They're furious with it. And you've seen that kind of manifest around Reform. I think that in some ways, I mean, obviously people are making big claims, right? Some people are saying that it's much higher for Restore and everything. I don't know. I've not seen that, but, obviously we've not spoken to 76,000 voters, right? You always get a bit of a kind of snapshot from people. We've been giving out flyers that we've distributed over 500,000 already across the UK. And we're saying there's 5 key areas that people should be pressurizing candidates on. And that's around digital ID, number one, really essential, really important across the board. Then also net zero, no to net zero. Will they stop that? Free speech, central, fundamental to all of this. And where they, will they can stop the attacks on farmers and hospitality and our food security? And will they uphold the right to have juries and appeals and elections and not dispense with them? Now, obviously, there are local issues for sure, but this isn't just a local election.
Yeah, but the problem is that the local issues were sorted out 2 years ago because they elected a Labour MP who said that he was going to serve them for the purposes of their local constituency, who's now given up his ghost to give it to a guy who wants to be Prime Minister. It will never go back. I mean, people are already saying if they elect Andy Burnham, you'll never see him again.
Well, that's right. Some people are furious. They've made that point that they're being treated like a stepping stone. That Josh Simons, and also some of the stories and the measures that are coming out, people are very sceptical because Josh Simons got track record with himself having to step down and what happened with allegations and with the media and journalists and everything. So some of the stories that are being presented, you can kind of see perhaps a hidden hand presenting that. I think that also that these things are national and local. Obviously, this is a very national question right now, because if obviously you could take the approach with net zero. Well, have you got the budget? What do you do about roads? What we're going to do about local business? But if you're dominated by spending and an approach that's obsessed with net zero, you'll go down a certain area, and that impacts everything, not just from your budget, but from growth potential and everything. But if you're not, for instance, an example is Reform unannounced the climate emergency. in a couple of their southern councils when they went in there. And all of a sudden, you've got a lot more of a budget to play with. So there's all these questions that are both local and national. We've seen things like zones that have been imposed with people that's linked to this question of digital ID, but with surveillance and fines and shutting streets and in making those measures. In fact, Andy Burnham has had a number of the bits of the infrastructure digitally put together in Manchester. And I think the thing is that there's a real sense, the other thing that's really struck us here, Mike, is that people are not, they're quite engaged and willing to speak, and it's not like, oh no, there's just more people here and no one ever comes here and you're just all here now, which has been the case in a couple of other examples recently. That's not the impression. I think there's a real sense that people recognize how important this moment is, that it's a kind of crossroads. And for sure, some people are very furious that they're being sort of treated as a stepping stone, because people have made that point. A lot of people are fed up with generally politicians who say they're going to do things and don't. We have heard that reaction about the Labour Party. There's also skepticism a little bit. Will people really do it? But there's also a lot of enthusiasm where people are saying, we really do want to see a change. We think it's time for change now. We're fed up, for instance, with Keir Starmer and these measures that have been imposed, and we want to get things that are going to get things moving. The cost of living crisis is an enormous issue for people, and that's coming up all the time. As I said about retail, is a big part of that. But a range of areas that about people and being able to have affordability and where they're at. So these big issues are being seen. We're seeing them at the doorstep. And I have a hunch that some of the things that are saying that Restore, for instance, are much higher, are not going to be that. They might say that in the poll. I will say they mobilise a lot of people to come to the...
But that's the other thing. And again, it's hard to judge because a lot of the people from Restore and Reform as well are coming in from outside the constituencies. They don't have a vote there, in which case, it might look good, but whether or not they can turn that into something, I don't know. But
they can get to a lot... Yeah,
I've got to run. Sorry,
but Labour also brought people up from London as well.
Yeah, no, of course they all are.
Yeah, the last thing to say, Max, I think we've got to wrap up, is I think it's very exciting, but also across the board, people are very concerned about free speech, two-tier, some of the things we've seen in the last week or so.
Yeah.
And it's time to get back to grips with things. And we'd encourage everyone, keep an eye on togetherdeclaration.org, because we're going to be announcing some more things very shortly. Thank you, Mike.
Good stuff. Alan, good to see you again. Thanks a lot. Good to see you staying part of the fight. We're going to talk to Sir Gerald Howarth in a moment. First up, though, we've got a poll going on, which is nothing to do with me, by the way. I don't want you to think I'm some kind of mad narcissist. What have you most missed about Mike, it says, is wild hair, 34%, sparkling wit, 56%, surprisingly, sniffles, 5%, and a lisp, 4%. I don't have a lisp, but in the early days of the show, people used to go, have you got some kind of lisp? By the way, I got a banana update. I forgot to bring this to you earlier. Banana update, we had the conversation, I should have said it when Emma was here. We've had the problem with green bananas. We've had the problem with bananas that are off, that are too soft, fair trade bananas. It's the only one, how many kinds you get. Don't listen to them, Mike. No lisp at all, says Leo Will. Thank you. So because I was away, right, I thought, I know, I'm going to come back from Sussex on Love the Wild Look. Thank you, Simon, man from Kernow. I'm going to come up from Sussex, having looked after the dog for the weekend. I'm going to have nothing in the fridge, so I'll get a delivery. So I ordered a grocery delivery, right? And when you sometimes order these things, there's a problem, because I've had situations where I've ordered, say, a bunch of bananas. You get one banana. Right? And you go to the guy, well, I didn't just order one, I ordered like a bunch. Why haven't you only got one? He's like, nothing I can do. So yesterday, right, the guy turns up with literally 5 bunches of bananas. And I'm like, what are all these bananas doing? And he's like, well, you must have ordered them. I'm like, I wouldn't have ordered 5 bunches of bananas. So I handed 3 of them back, and I thought I'd handed them all back. Then at the bottom of the bag, there was another bunch. So I've now got like 10 bananas. Which I've got to eat, and I mean they're mostly this colour, so they're not, they're not. So I'm going to have to eat 2 bananas a day, I think, this week. Anyway, just thought I'd pass that on to you. Nightmare, absolute nightmare. I love bananas, says Cindy. Thank you, Cindy, for that. Let's talk to Sir Gerald Howarth, who I'm sure has got far more important things to suggest to me than anything to do with over-ordering from grocery delivery people. So, Gerald, a very good morning to you, sir.
Well, good morning, Mike. I'm afraid I haven't had my banana yet, but I have had my cup of tea.
Have you ever had that thing, though, when you order, I don't know if you do such things as order food in from delivery types, and they bring you more or less than you wanted?
No, I'm afraid we go to the supermarket. I like to see what's on the shelf and choose it for myself, not have somebody choose it for me.
I quite like that idea, actually.
I like to be in control, Mike, you see.
Yes, no, it's always good to be in control. If only you were in government, and then we could be in control of the country, which we don't seem to be at the moment.
Well, yes, of course. It would, well, if you and I were in it together, I think it would be a bit different. We'd be taking action. We'd be getting the priorities right.
Yes, indeed. I mean, looking at the state of our defences, for example, an area you know plenty about, it struck me as slightly coincidental that suddenly, when Keir Starmer was being accused of not spending enough money on defence, we put a raid on a Russian shadow vessel. And this morning in the Times, which I now regard as the kind of mouthpiece of the Labour government, they're saying it's just the beginning. To which I found myself asking the question, just the beginning of what exactly?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, these ships have been passing through the channel for months, and no action has been taken by the government to intercept them, notwithstanding the fact that there are sanctions against these shadow fleets of Russian tankers sending oil around the world. And it's therefore extraordinary that this should suddenly have happened in the aftermath of the resignation of the Prime Minister's Defence Secretary, and of course a couple of days before he meets the German and French leaders at the G7, and a month before the NATO summit. The idea, of course, is to try to show that Britain has got some sort of guts, but I'm afraid it hasn't, and it's deeply, deeply depressing.
It really is. And I mean, isn't it sad that this is kind of where we seem to have now reached? I mean, somebody said at the weekend, I can't remember which pundit it was, who said that if we're not careful, we're going to end up being like Belgium with nuclear weapons. We literally won't have a force of any kind.
I saw that quote as well. I thought it was rather good. I think it was General Sir Nick Carter. But I hope I'm not taking his name in vain. But whoever it was, a very senior military person, and said, but that is precisely the position we are finding ourselves in. And of course, it was all shown in stark relief to the British people when President Trump asked for support to clear the Straits of Hormuz so that oil, some of it destined to the United Kingdom, but to our friends and allies as well, couldn't get through. Could we send some ships? We didn't have a single ship we could send. It was humiliating. It really was. And when you hear former heads of defense saying how when they go to the Munich Defense Conference in February this year, they felt ashamed to be British. I mean, we have simply fallen from grace in respect of defense. Up till now, since the Second World War, Britain has been regarded as a reliable defense partner and a partner of some standing. It's true, we still have our nuclear deterrent, which as we speak here today at 8:15 on a Monday morning, Mike, that submarine is somewhere under the sea, under the ocean, guarding us and ready to retaliate should we be attacked. But of course, it's not going to be used unless we are attacked by a nuclear weapon. If we're attacked by, say, our undersea cables, which the Russians have been monitoring, say those are severed, which would, of course, seriously damage our economy. We're not going to fire a nuclear missile at Moscow.
No, of course not. And I mean, that's part of the problem, isn't it? The sort of the state of our hardware, if you like, is pretty poor in terms of, as you say, when we were trying to find a ship to send into the Gulf, we couldn't really find one and couldn't get it there within 3 or 4 weeks of launch of the mission. And it seems to me that an awful lot of military people are saying to me, well, Keir Starmer can get away with telling sort of fibs and lies about what he's going to do on welfare, what he's going to do on social media for under 16s, but you can't start lying about giving more money to defence and then just turning around and not doing it.
Well, it was very significant. John Healey was a very serious Labour loyalist and a very honourable man, and he only saw the defence investment plan, which was promised last autumn and has not yet been delivered. And here we are in midsummer. And he did not have sight of that until Monday. And so, having read it and seen that there was not the necessary funding to produce a minimum requirement for our armed forces, minimum financial requirement, he resigned. It was extraordinary. In his letter to the Prime Minister, he said that the Prime Minister was unable to provide the funding and the Treasury was unwilling. British people should take note of that. Sir Keir Starmer is not only Prime Minister, he's First Lord of the Treasury. So the First Lord of the Treasury was unable to find the funds which his subordinates at the Treasury were unwilling to provide. And it's interesting seeing Lisa Nandy on the television yesterday saying, oh, well, it's all going to be reviewed. It's okay. It's all going to be fine. And Dan Jarvis, a former major in the parachute regiment, which of course were based in my constituency of Aldershot for many decades, that Dan Jarvis is saying, yes, he's going to get a better deal for the armed forces, get the money that they need. It's not going to happen.
No.
Because the elephant in the room, Mike, is welfare. And when Lord Robertson, former Defence Secretary of State under Labour, former Secretary General of NATO, says we cannot fund, we are under real threat from Russia, but we are undefended, we are unsafe, and you cannot fund the armed forces by increasing welfare spending.
No.
And former Labour MP, a great friend of mine, said that he doesn't think that the Prime Minister nor Andy Burnham has got the necessary guts to cut the welfare bill. And we know when Sir Keir Starmer tried to cut the welfare bill by a mere £5 billion out of a budget of 333 billion, a very modest sum. His backbenchers all opposed it. And now we read in the papers that if he tries to do it again, they'll oppose it again. If Andy Burnham tries to do it, they'll oppose him.
Yeah.
And so we have a situation, Mike, where in 1982, so just at the time of the Falklands War, we were spending 5% of GDP on defence and 3.5% on welfare. Today, we are spending 11.8% on welfare and 2.6% on welfare. At a time when we are under threat, when the former Secretary General of NATO, former Labour Defence Secretary, says this country is in peril. I mean, it beggars belief.
It does. It's extraordinary. And also the 5 billion you talk about, they were trying to cut. They weren't even trying to cut it. They were just saying we don't want to add it on to an extra amount of spending. So it wasn't even an actual reduction. It was just, we'd like not to spend an extra 5 billion. They wouldn't even let them do that. But it's slightly terrifying as well, is it not, to consider the prospect of somebody like Andy Burnham, who literally I wouldn't put in charge of a bus company, even though he seems to think that, all he needs is a load of public money to subsidise bus companies, and that works very well. Being in charge of the defence of the realm, I mean, it seems incredible to me.
Well, it is. It is very, very frightening. As I go back to my point about John Healey. John Healey is not a violent Labour lefty. He is a calm, straightforward, decent chap. I never knew him well when I was in the House, but I did know him, and we would exchange views on things from time to time. But when you have a man like that resigning because he cannot provide, let's put it bluntly, a minimum requirement. This doesn't increase the number of ships we have. It doesn't increase the number of aircraft we have. It doesn't increase the number of drones. They've hardly ordered any drones since they came to office 2 years ago. And yet we can all see what's happening in Ukraine and and indeed in the Middle East as well, that drones are now an important part of the armory. Well, where is this new defence investment plan? The defence industry is in dire straits. They're waiting for new orders. Nothing is happening. We're paralysed, and the rest of the world looks on at us, a country which led in NATO in terms of its defence capability and defence spending, and they look on. And as somebody said the other day, Britain's become a laughingstock. It really is very serious, and yet you have Labour members of Parliament not willing to cut the welfare bill at a time when the nation is in peril.
Yeah, I know. Extraordinary stuff. So, Gerald Howarth, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Good to talk to you.
Enjoy the
rest of the day. Bit of breaking news for you. Keir Starmer's press conference has now started, and he has indeed confirmed that social media will be banned for teenagers under 16. And this is what he had to say about it, right? I'm not prepared to compromise on the safety and happiness of our children, and that is why this ban must happen, and that is why this ban will happen. I mean, if it wasn't so tragic, it would be hilarious, wouldn't it? A man who does not seem to care a jot about the main population of this country, the general population of this country, who would rather have an immigration policy which is so bad that it fills the country up with people who wish to do our children harm. And yet, here he is saying he wants to protect them. And he's not going to stop them from coming into the country to do children harm, but he will stop children from being able to look at YouTube. So they can't watch this show for a start, or indeed they won't be allowed to watch Conor Tomlinson's show. Conor Tomlinson joins me for the first time ever, I think. Conor, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Morning, Mike. It feels a bit like Apollo Creed and Rocky finally teaming up.
Yeah, well, let's not get too carried away with it, but there's lots to talk about this morning. I mean, I noticed you've been writing quite a bit on your Twitter account about this rather shadowy organisation called RICU, which is a part of the Home Office, which has been used to kind of, propagandise, if you like, an awful lot of what's been going on over the last several years, really. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, RICU is the Research Information and Communications Unit. It was started in 2007 but put on steroids under David Cameron's government. The deputy under Baroness Saida Vorsi, when she was the chair of the Conservative Party, a guy called Richard Chalk, he came back from Iraq working for a dodgy PR firm called Bell Pottinger, doing classified work, and then set about doing psychological warfare operations on our population. Laura Dodsworth, your old friend, has actually written very well about this in her book for COVID. What they do is, in the aftermath of terror attacks, they control the front pages of newspapers, they bus imams and other community leaders out to the site, they hand out roses, they run prefabricated hashtags on social media, and they were responsible for the spontaneous rendition of Don't Look Back in Anger sung after the Manchester Arena bombing. And Don't Look Back in Anger is their motto. It is that you can't be angry when some migrant imported into the country by one of our treacherous governments in the past or present goes out and butchers a bunch of kids, detonates a nail bomb at a pop concert, or in the instance that the Daily Mail's source said, stabs Henry Novak and tries to cover it up while the police arrest him for racism. And if anyone listened to Henry Novak's father's heartbreaking statement outside of Southampton Crown Court, you would have seen the contours of some of the rhetoric that is fed through community liaison officers that pressure grieving families into giving statements that maintain community cohesion or don't disrupt racial tensions. For example, saying that Henry was the most inclusive boy you'd ever meet, or this isn't a case about Sikhism or racism, even when it absolutely was, or to respond to the outrageous murder of Henry, we don't need to run to extremes. This is the government using families as a human shield to deflect blame away from their immigration policies getting their kids killed. It's just disgraceful.
And this is a business as well, which is a bit that I think a lot of people don't get. That, there's hordes and hordes of people working in this kind of, community-based, multi-million-pound business where, many of them end up as MPs as well, who have never done a job of work in their life. They've worked for some think tank or other. They've ended up working for this operation. And, there's a sort of terrification, if you like, which is a terrible word, of the ordinary people of the country. And anyone who goes into those organisations is kind of immediately blacklisted, for want of a better word, for having a view that might actually be different from theirs. And as you say, they're so desperate to prove that everything's actually fine, when it's clearly not.
Yeah, the Behavioural Insights team, the Nudge Unit, is actually an international franchise, and that's a for-profit enterprise that we've exported to a bunch of other countries. So loads of other countries have got the same dose of our state-funded gaslighting program. The Americans have had this for blimey, going on 70 years now, with the Department of Justice's Community Relations Service. It's the exact same thing. Anytime like a black guy kills a white guy, for example, the fatal stabbing of Austin Metcalf, the government's drones come in and tell the parents, oh, you have to give a statement that forgives the perpetrator and maintains community cohesion. It's the exact same excuse that the police use to cover up the Pakistani rape gangs, for example. And then over at the Home Office where RICU is situated, you've got this strange cabal of people that keep cropping up time and time again. So one of the people involved in RICU is a woman called Dame Sarah Khan. It just so happens that her sister Sabine, or Sabina, she keeps changing her name, was the deputy at Raikou at the time that Sarah Khan's charity, Inspire, was getting funding from the Home Office. She was appointed to various anti-extremism task forces. Theresa May attended the launch. And you'll remember, Mike, because you used to work at The Sun. Do you remember the Union Jack hijab that was put on the front of The Sun in 2014 by any chance? Yeah, that was created by Sarah Khan. Raikou say it's our product. They were monitoring the public response to that image. It was created for her charity, and it was put on the front page after the beheading of a British aid worker called Alan Henning, in order to show the true face of British Islam. It was another gaslighting exercise. The same thing, I think, happened, and I fired off an FOI about this, and the government were very cagey about it. The same thing happened on the 8th of August 2024, when there were meant to be hundreds of far-right rallies materialising in the aftermath of the Southport murders, but none of them showed up. Instead, a bunch of Stand Up to Racism, Socialist Worker Party drones, including that Labour councillor Ricky something that got charged. But
I don't think he's had his trial yet, has he?
Well, no, he had his trial when he was let off by the jury. He got no prison time. Crazy, right? They all mobilised, and then mysteriously the next day, about 4 or 5 newspapers, all with different politics apparently, you know, the Guardian, the Times, the Daily Mail, the Express, they all put this photo of Stand Up to Racism drones standing in the street as if it was some sort of organic pushback against the far right. Yeah. And then Nick Lowell's of Hope Not Hate, one of those NGOs that you've referenced that smeared me, probably smeared you before, turned around and said, well, yeah, it was a lie, but at least the message of anti-racism was broadcast into every home. Now, it's quite important. Hope Not Hate gets money both from the Home Office and from the Paul Hamlin Foundation to establish chapters of activists all across the country that can mobilise at short notice. So they lied about the far-right protests. They get money from the government to establish these anti-racism networks. We know the anti-racism networks are ferried around by the police because we saw that at the Bell Hotel in Epping. And then suddenly, in the midst of a national crisis, civil unrest, suddenly every newspaper runs the same photo and the same headline when we know the Home Office instructs them to run newspapers to deflect from community cohesion. Yeah, something reeks to high heaven about this to me, Mike.
I mean, I'd have to say, having worked in having worked in newspapers, not for a long time, but I mean, I've never been given an instruction to publish anything like that. But I think what you're saying is right, but it maybe doesn't happen quite like that. It doesn't quite. It's not quite an instruction, but it kind of is. Like many people, like for example, you watch Sky News, you know, you don't need to be a genius to work out that, you know, the people there have all got a particular mindset and they report news based upon that mindset. And that's what they do. They don't even need to be encouraged to do it because they think they're doing the right thing. They think they're showing the true face of Britain, you know, and they're all absolutely as hopeless as you could imagine that they would be. I mean, we wouldn't know a story if they fell on it. I mean, look, Dan Hodges up in Makerfield this week's been making me smile. I mean, and I think he's going to be signed up by Rupert Lowe to be he's an ex-PR man, isn't he? I mean, he seems to be doing quite a good job campaigning for Restore.
Well, I wouldn't say so, considering he decided to share a really malicious Mail piece. I mean, the Mail have just gone mad in the last few days, just pumping out
They seem to have gone a bit tonto, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because if we remember from last year, the Mail were going to step in and help Paul Marshall buy the Telegraph, and that deal was brokered actually by Nadim Zahawi. So they're in the Reform Tory camp. They still let Boris publish, for example. I mean, that's deluded. But Dan Hodges was sharing that piece around, and I just have to say that piece accusing Restore Britain's canvassers of being neo-Nazis is a malicious lie because weirdly enough, in the headline they put it in scare quotes. Now, if you notice in the piece, it's never attributed to anybody, so it's never substantiated. What they've decided to do instead is try to ruin the lives of a 19-year-old kid, put him on the front page of newspapers, who's, I mean, I hope I'm not sharing something confidential here, but he's just lost his job and his family are like giving it in the neck. This is the kind of thing that people kill themselves over, by the way, so you've got to be very, very careful about this. Just for the crime of delivering a few leaflets for a registered political party that he supports, because for some reason there are vested interests that would prefer knocking Restore off course to ensure that their preferred party, be it Labour, Conservative, Reform, whatever, has a direct path to Downing Street. And I just think we shouldn't be using random members of the public as collateral damage in your war for influence and power. I just think it's disgraceful.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's a filthy business, isn't it, politics, as you know and as I know. And there is no protection for anyone if you don't have your own protection. It's as simple as that. And I would always say that to anybody who wants to get involved in it. You've got to be as tough as old boots. And if you're not, just be really careful. And I mean, you're right to point out that it can be dangerous for people as well. But of course, if you're right wing, nobody cares if it's dangerous for you. They only care if it's dangerous on the left.
Yeah, well, Daily Mail also, I remember they doxed the front door and the name of a guy, an anonymous blogger who used to go by Millennial Woes. I mean, I can't think of a reason why you would reveal his name and address other than to try and sick people on him. The same thing is done by Hope Not Hate, of course. Douglas Murray wrote in The Spectator previously that Hope Not Hate were going to reveal details about him shortly after another person they had previously docked was attacked by a jihadist. So we know that the press decide to shine a spotlight on certain individuals to either intimidate them out of public life, or particularly in NGOs that are aligned with Antifa, to basically put a target on their head and say, get this guy, he's a racist, fascist, Islamophobe, whatever.
Yeah, indeed. And I don't know if you've been up to Makerfield. I mean, lots of people have been. I've spoken to plenty of people who have been. I can't make head nor tail of it, really, because there seems to be a bit of a kind of a polling deficit, to be honest. I keep tweeting this, but there's a lot of polls coming out which are too small, really, to take any notice of. But it does seem to me to be sort of down to the wire, really. I mean, I don't think Restore have got enough to win it. They may have enough to prevent Reform from winning it, but I don't think Burnham's numbers are going to be as good as people think.
No, I agree. I think Burnham's margin of victory is going to be a lot lower. I think he's still going to win, just because there is this intergenerational checked out of politics effect of my dad voted Labour, my granddad voted Labour, I'm always going to vote Labour, even if Labour is really unpopular under Starmer. A lot of people treat politics like football teams, and they're just very tribal about it, unfortunately. I've got some friends that went up there. I haven't been up to Makerfield, but I know quite a few people that have, including, a lot of the guys that run the store are basically groomsmen at my wedding, so they're my good friends, and they have had quite some surprising canvassing returns of where within the first week about 20% of their returns said a definite yes. Now, of course, that's skewed to people that will open the door to them. Maybe people are being polite, but their numbers for Great Yarmouth, where they were estimate a massive margin of victory and lots of non-voters turning out, were actually accurate. They got double the vote share.
Well, that's what makes me wonder about the those who say, Restore haven't really got much going on. I mean, they literally swept the board in Great Yarmouth, so you have to take them seriously, surely.
Yeah, and it's proof that it's not just an online phenomenon, as many people in the press or even Reform have been saying. Turns out that lots of people that are online, much like your massive viewership, my congratulations on that, those people actually exist and they can leave their house. So lots of people have, actually, more than Reform's canvassers. And I would just suggest to Reform, you should probably ask, why haven't you got those people? Why didn't you command their loyalty? Why did they break away from you and go to Restore at that significant cost themselves? And so what I would predict is that the Restore and Reform are basically competing for second at this point. And I think that Rob Kenyon, strong candidate, seems like a really nice guy, actually, but I think that Reform haven't really helped him in this massive media circus of trying to crucify him for his former jokes and tweets. They've essentially coached him to apologise, and it just made him look weaker than he actually is on Question Time, which is sad. And I think that's narrowed his margin to be able to catch up to Burnham. And I think Restore are competing for between 10 and 20%, basically to prove themselves as a national political force. And so I think they've got nothing to lose. And as for Burnham winning, I mean, honestly, the guy has held every position under the sun, as you said previously. He's helped bury the bodies of the grooming gangs in his backyard, as Maggie Oliver has pointed out many times. And if he gets into government, I mean, he's not really going to change much. He's going to keep Ed Miliband in the team. He's going to keep Rachel Reeves' fiscal rules. He's going to keep Shabana Mahmood's half-baked immigration restrictions. And so he's not going to reverse the Labour Party's fortunes. And so I think people are more worried about the positive effect that Andy Burnham might have on Labour's national polling than is warranted. I still think the Labour Party are defunct, and this will be the last Labour government.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're finished. I think they're done. And I'm hoping, and I've been saying this ever since they got in, that they'll be out before 2029. But we shall see. But great to see you, Connor. A lot of people being very complimentary to you. Unfortunately, no, I'm not going to say that. That's good. So they all want you to come back and do it on a more permanent basis. So we'd be very happy for that if you fancy it. And I'll be seeing you, I think, on Thursday night, joining Dan Wootton for his overnight election broadcast. I think he's just trying to scupper me for the morning, because I'm going to be there from sort of 10 till midnight, and then I've got to go home and sleep for 3 hours and come in here. But it should be fascinating. I mean, I don't know how much we'll know. Because if it's that close, I mean, I've seen counts that can go it can be a recount, it can go into the early hours of the morning. What's your, I can ask you for a prediction now. What do you think's going to happen?
Okay, I think Burnham's going to get about 40%, Reform will get about 26 to 28%, and Restore will get between 12 and 14%.
Okay.
But if Restore gets second, I mean, that reassesses all of our political assessments. And I agree, by the way. I think you could end up in recount territory, possibly, because the same thing happened with Sarah Pochin in Huncorn.
Yeah, it was 6 votes, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was only 6 votes, by the way, because Catherine Blakelock of formerly the Brexit Party fame ran on a spoiler ticket and took 99 votes away. So again, if Reform were worried about Restore, you shouldn't have made them, essentially. You'd have a much larger victory margin.
Interesting. Conor Tomlinson, thank you very much indeed. I'll see you Thursday. Conor Tomlinson there checking in with the biggest breakfast show on YouTube in the UK right now. Everybody wants to be part of it. Thanks to him for the little compliment on the audience. And thank you very much. We have actually, while we've been on the air, just broken through 26 million views. So woohoo to you. Charlotte's also just informed me that she once ordered 99 bottles of milk and they delivered them. So maybe that's another thread that we can put through the show today, is stupid stuff that's turned up at your door that you didn't know you'd ordered. Mr. Gillespie on the super chat says, liar Starmer pretending kids matter so the uni party nutter government can gaslight in their vile dystopia. People of Makerfield, wake up and do your duty. I nearly said it. It's true. Absolute nonsense coming out of Keir Starmer's mouth. This from Voice for England. Conor is excellent. He, like Frank Wright, is a wordsmith. My humble endorsement. More power to them both. And to you, Mr. Graham. Thank you. We've got a clip, I think, of Keir Starmer, haven't we? Shall we have a...
Coming up now.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, I said that. I was about to reach for the water.
I'm not going to walk away. I don't think we should plunge the country into the chaos of a leadership election.
But if that happens and you stand, wouldn't you be a contributor to that chaos?
I don't think it should happen.
But if it does happen,
I will fight. And let me just be clear with you, that's not about personal vanity. It's not about stubbornness. It's out of a very deep sense of duty. I was elected to serve this country, notwithstanding the difficult circumstances. That is what I am doing, and in the last few weeks, others have made their own case. Mm-hmm. I've been concentrating on the job I was elected to do, which is to deliver for this country. This is about a sense of service and duty. It's not vanity, it's not stubbornness, it's duty.
You and I...
Service and duty. Where have you heard that before? Harry! It's Meghan Markle all over again, isn't it? You know, we do this out of a sense of service and duty. Not at all self-serving. Not at all about my own self-aggrandizement. No. It's not about vanity. No, of course not. I mean, seriously? What we can do now, though, is this.
Now, only two sorts of people oppose free speech, and they are at opposite ends of the scale. Snowflakes and totalitarians. I am offended, upset, insulted at least 30 times a day. Tough. It is not necessary to flash your knickers to do a decent ballroom dance. Free speech is for all, not for the privileged few. Nobody has the right to live their lives being protected from offence or from insult or from hurt feelings. And if you really can't take it, become a hermit.
Or perhaps join Herman's Hermits or something like that. Anne Widdicombe is here. Very good morning to you, Anne.
Good morning to you.
Good to see you. Just off to the side, we've got sort of a kind of a strange theme running through the show after I received more bananas than I wanted the other day. This is from Janice. On the subject of ordering too many bananas, I did an online order for my elderly mother-in-law for 6 apples along with other groceries. She received 6 packets of 6 apples, 36 apples in total. She had a complete meltdown. It can happen. I don't know about you, Anne. I mean, I don't. And we spoke to Sir Gerald Howarth, who might have been a former colleague of yours earlier, and he said, "Oh no, I don't like to order food in. I prefer to go and see what I'm actually buying." Are you one of those that likes to supermarket shop?
No, not at all. No, I'm delighted to have it delivered. I had the opposite experience. I ordered what I thought was a large bag of potatoes, right. And I got a single potato.
That's happened to me, and I don't understand it because, like, normally I've had that with bananas. We order a bunch of bananas, one arrives, but last night 5 bunches came, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I didn't order 5 bunches. It's just weird. Anyway, we should probably talk about more important matters than that, even though that is the staff of life, as it were. Keir Starmer this morning had a press conference. I think we're going to show you a little clip from it, in which he has decided to ban social media for under 16s. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but let's have a look at this.
That no child ever logs onto social media again. No. But look, This might shock you, but it doesn't shock parents of teenagers. They get around other laws too. But we don't say, oh, look, a teenager managed to get a drink somehow, so let's not bother banning alcohol sales to children. We don't do that, do we? That would be utterly ridiculous. And so I just don't accept that argument. Laws are rules, but they're also an expression of our values. They shape the social contract. And so this will change the conversations that parents have and the expectations of children over time.
I mean, it all sounds like it's something worthwhile, but in fact, it's far more sinister than that, isn't it?
Well, I'm in favour of trying to do something to protect children on social media. Yeah. You get your extreme cases like the Molly Russell case, but you also get lots and lots of completely unpublicised anxiety and fear being created because of the way that social media can work. So I am in favour of trying to protect youngsters under 16. All I would say is the devil will be in the detail. Yes. Now, Keir Starmer brushed that off pretty quickly this morning by saying, well, you know, you wouldn't say that about drinking rules, for example, but the devil will be in the detail. And I do sincerely hope that this is one of those things that Parliament takes seriously and thrashes out seriously, and people don't start with entrenched positions, you know, and just stick to them regardless. I think it's a worthy move, but only if the detail stands up.
Because that's the difficulty, I think. People do worry that this is a very kind of authoritarian government which would like to be more in charge of us and seems to make more recommendations about how we should be living our lives and what we should be doing with them and what we shouldn't be doing with them. And I think that's the fear that many people have, certainly, even those who, and Molly Russell's father's one of them, by the way, even those who want protections for the children, who are concerned about the speed with which this is being done and the kind of the notion that it even can be done.
Well, first of all, I don't think the speed is anything particularly remarkable. It's been at a snail's pace. But yes, you're right when it comes to what is going to be done. And I can only repeat, you know, that we shall have to examine it and see. But this is for children. This is for the protection of children. It's not for the suppression of adults who want to exchange views. So I'm not prepared to go down the free country route until I've actually seen the detail.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the way that they want to impose this, I don't really see, I don't know whether you could imagine how it's going to be done. I mean, because I don't see how you can ban somebody who's under 16 from looking at a phone, which they have in their possession, and they wish to use to access particular things. I mean, I see his analogy about the drinking. I get that. And some people are saying to me, well, if you make it illegal, people will be less likely to sort of drift into it, if you like. And maybe that's true. But it may be the genie's too far out the bottle, no?
Well, the genie may well be out of the bottle, and you may not be able to put all the genie back in. But you can still restrict the genie's activities. And I'm actually in favour of trying to do something to protect young people when it comes to social media. Now, a lot of this will depend on parents. You know, there are plenty of parents who are sufficiently irresponsible to just hand over their own phones and say, look at what you like. That applies to every other law as well that concerns young people. So there's nothing unique to this. And yes, I mean, if there is a barrier there of illegality, that may discourage some people. But I just want to see the detail, Mike. I want to give this one a chance. That's all. I'm not saying that at the end of it I'll think that it's perfect, or maybe not even that it's worth doing. But I am saying I want to give it a chance, and I want Parliament to take a responsible attitude towards it and really, really look at it, not just look for the flaws that you can make party capital out of.
But this is one of the problems, I think, with this particular instruction that's come from Starmer, because I don't believe he has to put it through Parliament at all. He can operate this new crackdown without having to pass any new laws. I mean, Mr. Woodward has sent an interesting super chat saying, surely the Online Safety Act is now null and void if this new law is brought in. I'm not sure how he means that, but I mean, certainly it would seem that if the government can do this without having to have a debate in Parliament, then what you would like to see isn't going to happen.
Well, First of all, I don't believe that the government can actually get away without a debate in Parliament. Now, whether there is full legislation and a clause-by-clause debate is a very different issue. But I don't believe they'll get away without a debate because the opposition parties will just put it down. I would if I were leading the opposition. Mark you, that doesn't say anything. But I mean, I would. So I don't think he'll get away without a debate. Whether he gets away without a thorough examination is a different matter. But as I say, I am prepared to give this a whirl. I don't think there's anybody out there who doesn't recognise the harm that social media can do. Now, if you're an adult, that's tough. You just have to deal with it. You have to regulate yourself and what you access. But children, we've always accepted that the law must protect children. And I'm willing to look at this, and I hope other people will be too. I hope we don't all go into, it's oppressive. It may just be something that we need.
Interesting. Let's talk a bit about, speaking of leaders of the opposition, Makerfield. Big week for Keir Starmer this Thursday coming up. Obviously, there's an awful lot of different moving parts to the story. Difficult to predict. I think it's still a bit too close to call between Reform and Burnham, to be honest. There seems to be, depending on which poll you look at, most of them come down that they're both somewhere around the 40 mark, 45, 40, 43, 40, something like that. A lot of undecideds, probably still around 10%. Restore, obviously, with a sort of foot in the camp as well. What are you seeing, or what are you hearing? What are you being told?
Well, I was in Makerfield only a couple of days ago. So my information is very fresh now.
Okay.
Yes, I think you're right. It's close between Reform and Labour. I didn't meet a single Conservative, not one. And I met two Restore would do much better to vote Reform because voting Restore is effectively a vote for Labour. I think, yes, it is close. I wouldn't want to call it. I think probably Burnham does have the edge at the moment, but the edge, when you're several days out, is not enough.
No. Well, I mean, I saw a piece the other day written by someone who said in a normal situation, if you've got a government which is as unpopular as this, with a 5-point lead in a by-election, usually they lose.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it speaks volumes that here you've got one of the most unpopular governments we've ever had. And yet the official opposition, which usually, would be making hay with this, the official opposition is out of sight. It's nowhere to be seen. And that, I think, says it all. It is now undeniable, I think, as a result of this by-election, that Reform is the effective. It's not the acknowledged, but it's the effective opposition in this country.
Yes. Because Kemi Badenoch gets a lot of praise from a lot of places, and she says a lot of things which seem to make sense, but she's having no effect, really, it would seem to me, on the general population in terms of which way they want to vote. Nobody really talks about the Conservatives anymore.
No, they don't, and for very good reason. I think she's raised her game in Parliament. I don't think that's easily denied. She has raised her game at the dispatch box. But frankly, I saw William Hague trounce Blair at the dispatch box week after week. Didn't have any resonance in the wider world at all. And I'd always throw out this challenge to Conservatives. Give me one original idea that Kemi Badenoch has come up with. Reform says we're coming out of ECHR. Kemi Badenoch says we're coming out of ECHR. Same with detention of illegal immigrants, etc., etc. Whenever Reform make an announcement, she waits a little bit to see whether it goes down well. And if it does, lo and behold, it's Conservative Party policy. Well, where is the leadership in that?
Yeah, I know, absolutely right. Let's talk a little bit about the defence problem, which is quite large. A lot of people rather suspect, Gerald Howarth being one of them, about this raid on the Russian shadow vessel. And I was looking at the front page of the Times today, which, as I now describe it, as the sort of mouthpiece of the Labour government, it's so much in line with the sort of Stasi report system. It's sort of Pravda now for Downing Street. They say the raid on Russian shadow vessel is just the beginning. To which I found myself asking the question, just the beginning of what exactly?
Of what and with what?
Yeah.
Yes. Those are the important questions. I mean, when it comes to defence, we are in a situation where we are not defended as a country. There are, we would be very hard put, as I've said before on this programme, we'd be very hard put even to stand to. We haven't got an active navy. We used to have the greatest navy in the world.
Yeah.
We've got too few servicemen. Now, let's focus not on propaganda and not on Russian ships, but let's focus on what we actually have and what we could do with it in any given situation. Now, we've proved beyond all doubt that we can't even deploy a ship when one of our own bases on foreign soil has been attacked. We can't even do that. We've shown that. It's not even theory. We've shown it. So most of our ships now, if not all of them, are in dock. That is the stage that we're at now. Let's focus on that. I don't want any of these stories, about what we might have done. I want to know when we're going to be in a position to defend our country on a normal level. And the answer is not for years. And that even assumes that they're going to get active. And I don't see much sign of that at the moment. There's a lot of talk.
No. Well, this is it. And it's also more lies from STARMER. You can't treat everybody like some kind of, idiot. It's one thing to promise, to cut back on welfare and then not to do it. But it's quite another thing to say we're going to spend 3.5% of GDP by the next parliament on defence and then just not even go anywhere near it and completely let down even your own people, the Secretary of State for Defence, who went along with you on the basis that you promised him, jam tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the view that they took, probably, maybe even the subconscious view was, look, defence isn't uppermost in the minds of the population, so we needn't really worry too much, whether we deliver on it. I'm pretty certain that is the attitude. They know that certain things are very much in the forefront of people's minds, like cost of living.
Yeah.
They think defence, is something that not many people worry about. Well, I think actually they're wrong. And I think most people, asked how important defence is, would say it's right up there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the more people worry about the realities of the dangers of the world that we live in, the more they want the government to protect them. And, frankly, the streets are dangerous enough without us being, worried about a foreign invader. Because we've already been invaded, thank you very much indeed, by some people who weren't actually part of any particular armed force. So there we are. But listen, Anne, great to see you, as ever. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure we'll be talking soon after the election on Thursday night. We'll be here doing all the news from that on Friday morning. So in the meantime, check out Anne's Substack, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you very much indeed. Now, I've got some great news for you, by the way. So in case you didn't know, UK Live Online is now launching today. Brand new show with Russell Quirk at 10 o'clock called The Quirk Report. He's got guests including Lembit Opik, Esther Kraku, Paul Burgess and Mayuran Senthil Nathan. We had him on the other day.
Yeah,
is he's the Hindu guy, isn't
yes,
he?
the other one.
Who's the other one? Yeah, we've got two Hindus now. Don't say there's nothing about diversity on this show. So also coming up, the World Cupper at midday with Mark Littlewood. And he's, of course, going to have Stuart Woody Wood from the Bay City Rollers on there. He's going to have Leo Kearse as well. And his co-host, Stato, Glyn Brailsford. I don't know, has Russell Quirk done a promo for his show?
Not yet.
Well, he should bloody well do one so we can play it and promote his show. But he's coming up at 10 o'clock. And should we not play then, in that case, let's have a bit of Mark Littlewood, shall we?
Yeah, we'll start with Edward Hughes and then it goes on to that.
Oh, you want that?
It then plays on to that, yeah.
What, you want some news?
News. Then
Oh, I thought it was too quiet.
We'll try and turn it up.
Oh, you're going to turn it up? We're going to try and have some augmented news from Edward Hughes. Apparently, we're going to try and fix the volume level. Have a look.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes with your Monday Bulletin. Oh, what a sparkling Monday in Blighty. STARMER's charging ahead with a social media ban for under 16s, sold as protecting kids, but critics see it as the perfect Trojan horse for broader state control and digital ID creep that'll eventually rope us all in with age checks, scans, and endless oversight. Defence ministers are bailing over dire funding because competence is so last government. Royal Marines finally stormed a Russian shadow tanker. Better late than never. Tommy Robinson detained at Heathrow under terror laws post-Russia trip. Nothing to see here. Farage demands foreigners out of social housing, assisted dying returns for debate, and warmer weather's on the way. Classic Britain, more rules for everyone, same old delivery failure. Stay tuned to UK Live today with the Quirk Report with Russell at 10 a.m, followed by Mark Littlewood's World Cupper. Booyakasha. Remember to like and subscribe. Latest Tigers.
Hi there, Mark Littlewood here, in Mike Graham's seat. But as of Monday the 15th of June, I'm going to be in a different seat for UK Live, giving you everything you need to know about the World Cup. Is it finally coming home after 60 years? I'll be broadcasting from the beautiful town of Calidore in Mallorca, which has vast numbers of sports bars for me to watch every second of every single match. We're going to have guests, chats, and don't worry if you don't really understand football or if you're not interested in it. This is going to be a sideways take on the biggest sporting tournament that mankind has ever seen. We'll never be offside, but you might sometimes see me bombing down the right wing. We'll be looking at what's happened in the previous night's games, what's going to happen in that evening's games, and we're going to be profiling as many of the countries as we can. There's 48 of them in this year's World Cup. What do you need to know about not just France and Argentina and Spain, but Curacao, Haiti, the Cape Verde Islands, the long shot minnows. Be there from noon weekdays on UK Live, joining me for a World Cupper. See you then.
The revolution will be televised. The revolution will be televised.
There we are. Was that any louder? Could you hear him? A lot of people saying, looking forward to seeing Esther Krakow. Yeah, how do you get her? I've been trying to get her for ages.
Time zone wise.
I suppose she's in America, isn't she? That's the thing, yeah. It's always difficult. Brilliant. Anyway, listen, we've now got Marilyn Horse to talk to. I mean, this is such a great show. All my favourite people are on it. It's fantastic. Marilyn, a very good morning to you.
And to you, and I hope you had a lovely holiday.
I did have a lovely holiday, but, you know, I was saying to Emma Wolf this morning, you know, when you go away, and I know you went to Bermuda not long ago, you kind of realise how terrible Britain is at the moment and what a bad state. And it's not about not being patriotic, and it's not about not being, you know, rah-rah for the UK and all that, because I still love the country. And I still said to myself, you know, it's nice to be home as the plane touched down at, you know, 1:45 in the morning on Friday morning. But then I got in the car and immediately was confronted by a sign saying the M25 was shut. So I had to go through sort of South London, cones everywhere, roadworks, you know, 20-mile-an-hour zones, speed cameras. And I'm literally driving. I was like Mr. Magoo driving my very expensive car at 20 miles an hour through deserted streets at sort of 3 o'clock in the morning going, what's going on? I've just come from this beautiful island called Cyprus where there was no people. It's really quiet. You know, the roads are brilliant. There's no potholes. You know, the wine's cheap. You'd love it, by the way.
I know.
You know.
I would love to. I've never been. I'd love to go. And I also love Greek food and all of that. But I mean,
yeah.
It is. I agree with you. I love the country. I just don't like what's happened to it here. Pooch is off on one again, isn't he? Look.
Well, listen, wait till you see the new studio he's built.
I know. I'm going to sit him on the naughty chair soon, I think. But you know what you were saying about, I mean, I don't know, the thuggery. Do you know what I think they do in the police state? I think they have a compound where they put police officers and they feed them steroids and then they bring them out to be utter thugs when there's any sort of protest. So just this weekend, just yesterday, there was a young man who was, I mean, these are all white people,
yeah,
not of the migrant sort of ethnicity. This one lad, he was wearing, it was Leicester, he was wearing a Union Jack, and it was a British Patriot rally, right. And there were 6 police officers that jumped on him, slammed him into a metal bollard.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Knocked him out cold, and he's in intensive care, critically ill. And then Siobhan, Siobhan White, who we all love, she went down to Brighton to some sort of protest, and obviously was identified. And she was, I mean, they were awful. The women down there were awful. They were all, Brighton's a very funny place. I think they got different oxygen down there.
Very strange place, yeah.
They were like going, oh, you know, letting them, oh, we welcome migrants, we welcome migrants. And what was hideous, they had a big poster of Rhiannon, obviously her brutally murdered daughter, flying this around while they were going, oh, you know, migrants welcome. And a police officer pushed them on to the floor. And I've spoken to her this morning, and she's now suffering with a really bad back. That is assault. You know, that's not, I mean, these are utter thugs. There's another guy only yesterday that he was just walking down a road, and for some reason the police officers thought there was something wrong with him and smashed him into metal railings, and he now needs plastic surgery. I mean, this is assault. This is common assault. This is grievous bodily harm.
Yeah, and also the police should be the people who are stopping that kind of thing from happening, not actually perpetrating it. You know, I also saw another story from that Brighton sort of clash that was going on, because there was a Stop the Boats demo, as well as these kind of, you know, nutty leftists, right? And apparently there was a woman who was actually not involved in either of the protests, walking down the street with a St George's flag, because the World Cup's on and she wanted to celebrate the fact that England were in it, right? And they started booing her and shouting at her and like harassing her just because she had an England flag. I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on in this country.
It is absolutely outrageous. And then there was another one as well, where I don't know what this dad had done or what he, you know, but he was holding his 5-year-old son, and they pulled him away and they ripped the 5-year-old boy out of the dad's arms and frog marched him. Two hefty great gorillas, have frog marched him into the back of this police car, and this little 5-year-old is screaming his head off. I mean, that's going to impact that child for all his life. How can they get away with this? And people are just, you know, it is outrageous. I mean, it's total brutality, and it's sickening to watch. But sometimes I had to keep watching it to think, am I really watching this? Is this really going on? It's just awful. And, you know, I'm talking about booing. I mean, how hideous was it to see, you know, Princess Kate and the 3 lovely children sat in a carriage and people booing them? I mean, what has happened to good manners and any form?
Well, that'll be those idiots. That'll be those idiots from Republic, won't it?
Well, probably. I mean,
you know, because we see this a lot where you go, oh, the British are booing, you know, the royal family. Actually, they're not. It's usually these complete. I don't want to say the word because I'll be told off. Wallies, shall we say, from Republic, who are basically run by a South African bloke, by the way, right? And they're so stupid that during, if you remember, this is one of my favourite stories, when the King's coronation was going to happen, they asked to the police, could they please demonstrate? And they said, yes, but, you know, you'll need to coordinate with us as to where you want to do it. And so they told them. And when they turned up in the morning to set up their sort of, you know, their speakers and their stage so they could protest against the coronation, the police nicked them all and put them all in jail for the weekend, which was brilliant. That's how stupid they are, right? But these are the people who, whenever you see this being reported around the world, you know, they've got an agenda. They're not ordinary citizens who are fed up with the royal family. They've got an agenda to get rid of the royalty.
But even if that's what your belief and thoughts are, these are maybe the children in today's world of idiots on the streets. Maybe the children shouldn't be in these carriages. I mean, poor Princess Charlotte. She looked absolutely shocked, bless her.
I know.
I mean, I really felt for her. I mean, how do you explain what a conversation to have with your children?
I know.
And of course, this was all about the trooping of the colour. But the most funny thing I thought was seeing Keir Starmer sat there next to his wife. It looked like they both stepped in doggy do.
Oh yeah.
Is it you? Is it you?
Yeah, I mean, she looks so miserable, right? I've never seen a woman look that miserable since I got divorced. You know,
it reminded me very much of. I think it was when Charles and Di went to India, and a bit the same. I mean, honestly, it would look like they had a magnet, North and South Pole, just not, you know, whatever it is, North. I was never good at school, but it was hilarious. They couldn't have looked the most miserable people in Britain. But the other thing going on with sentencing and stuff like that, I'm quite angry this weekend actually with stuff that I found.
Well, there's a lot of reasons to be angry. I mean, you're going to talk about.
it just leaps out at you, doesn't it? You can't. This thing about anti-white type thought is like, there was a white girl, 14-year-old girl, who was raped, gang raped by, wait for this, 9 migrant young teenagers, in some woods, and brutally raped. 3 times this happened before she had the courage to go to the police, right? So you've got 9 young migrant men between 11 and 16, and she is 14, all right? Guess what they got? They got 30 community hours. And
that's extraordinary, isn't it?
So I would say to any of the public, I don't have the time, frankly, but if any of you have 28 days where you can appeal to the Attorney General. You do not need a lawyer. If you think something is not right, you can go online now and do a form. I might actually do it later today, because I just thought, you what? And there was and I do think, I mean, I love Anne Widdecombe, and what she said today, I said, yes, what she said about the online safety bill. I would have said exactly the same if you asked me. But I think these judges, when you're letting people out, and I'm not going to make people choke on their Weetabix, but if you go on Google, look at the Copine scale, look at category A, and look at, sometimes these people have got 3,000 or 4,000 of this particular category they've made, and they're walking away with a suspended sentence, whatever. I think in these instances, judges should be made to look at these videos, and then they might think different about the sentencing, because this is brutal, barbaric behaviour in real time. That's why I don't like saying images. It is real video, real footage of real abuse, and these people can walk free. It's just the whole thing. It just there's so much stuff. I think actually, you know, Team Mike Graham should run the country.
Well, I mean, we've got plenty of skills between us, I think, to do so, because when you see Keir Starmer standing up this morning, right, and saying that he's absolutely determined to safeguard our children, and so therefore, because of that, he's now banning them from going on social media. Social media is not killing them or raping them, right? If you want to safeguard them, maybe you should stop allowing people into the country who are doing them harm.
Well, that's exactly right. He seems to be completely oblivious to that. And he's standing up at the his lectern this morning looking so proud of himself. Aren't I clever boy? Look what I'm doing. We have an online safety bill, for goodness sake. I mean, I can see parents want it. Number one, parents should really take more of an overview. How many times have I said it? Number two, I agree with Ian Russell that, you know, the content in the online safety bill, now he fudged over that this morning, is supposed to say if the platforms don't take harmful content down, then they will be sued to lose 10% of their income. We never mentioned that. So for me, I agree with Anne that, you know, let's give it a whirl, let's see. But is he dovetailing this into the online safety bill because he didn't mention it? So does he actually know it exists? You know, and has he done what he always does, is a knee-jerk, quick grandstanding of politics? Look at me, be a clever boy, you know, just in time before they make Makerfield election, And as we bring that in as well, here's my next beef again, because I know you're going to kick me off in a minute.
Not actually, no. Yeah, how dare you suggest such a thing?
I mean, I know, because Andy Burnham I ought to get off social media.
Ban yourself from it.
This girl, Iman Zaina, right? Iman Zaina. She was like wanted a lot of people to follow it and push it today. She was exploited by gangs, but she was put in the cells in Manchester, GMP, Greater Manchester Police, where she was raped by GMP officers, right? And she has been fighting this for years. And she went to Andy Burnham. Maggie Oliver's been involved in it. Andy Burnham bounced her from one person to the rest and the next and so on, and never did a damn thing, right? And now, here's the thing. They've lost the CCTV footage.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
How surprising.
Amazing? It's gone down the toilet, gone down the Googler. You know, that poor girl. So she's never going to get justice.
It's in that same locked room as Morgan McSweeney's phone, presumably.
Oh, absolutely. He's obviously found it.
Well, I know Starmer's so stupid that he's still taking advice from this bozo, right? The guy who they claim is a genius of politics, right? Who's got Starmer to become the most unpopular Prime Minister of all time on his advice, right? He's still taking his advice.
I think he looks a real creep, honestly. I think he looks like he's
not to be trusted.
photos of him, and I think,
yeah.
well, I think that about anybody.
As they say in Scotland, it gives me the book, which it does. Absolutely gives you the book. But this whole idea though of safeguarding children, you're absolutely right. I think parents need to be told to have more of a role in what it is that their children are doing. And if they can't do that, I've got this from Olivia, who says maybe they should stop the benefits for parents who don't adhere to the social media ban, as they all use it as childcare, which is quite a good point, isn't it?
But that is true. I know people that I know people that do that. I mean, it's completely true. But how are they going to police it, Mike?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I said you're going to get a knock on the door. Excuse me, your 10-year-old son's watching porn. Is he? Really?
Yeah.
No, that was me, actually. What are you going to do?
I know, but do you not think that? I mean, I do agree with that. I think there's you have to do something. So I'm not completely against it. But he is almost like he thinks this is the silver bullet. And it isn't, because you have got all this stuff. We should have been banning the online safety bill's been up and running for 18 months. I haven't seen a single platform be banned for harmful content. But the parents... I'm going to say, anyone listening now, get those devices out the kids' bedrooms. You don't know what they're watching. You don't know. And if I could have £1 for every time a parent has rung me and said, if only, I'd be buying Cyprus, Mike.
You probably could. Yeah, absolutely right. Well, listen.
It's just shocking. And they have no idea. They have no idea how to block. You can look at the back of your router, and there's a passcode there, and there's a code there. And if you put that in, you can see what's happening for the what's coming through, what is actually being transmitted through your broadband. Parents are legally responsible for what goes in and out of their broadband. Wakey.
I know. I mean, well, this is the thing. One thing he did say this morning is that just because some kids get to have a drink at the age of 14 doesn't mean we're going to make it legal. I get that, but equally, if you're a parent and your 14-year-old child comes home drunk, it's your responsibility to make sure that's not going to happen again. You don't just let it happen and go, oh, well, I was a bit busy that day,
But also, these kids have got older siblings. They've got aunties, uncles, cousins, neighbours. Yeah. I'm not, please don't think, like Anne said, I'm not kicking this down the bath, throwing the bathwater out. But you cannot ignore the fact, how many parents this Christmas are going to buy their 6-year-old an iPhone? Why? So there's lots of things that parents need to. I know I'm going to be unpopular, but and I know I do agree with him. I would not want to be bringing kids up in this world today. I really wouldn't. I think it's awful. So he's offered them something, but I'm a big fan of Ian Russell and what he says, and of course he has been through it. He knows. But please, parents, take these devices out the bedrooms. Look at what the phones are capable of doing. I mean, I often say when I'm teaching the kids in schools, would your parents give you the keys to their BMW? You're 9 years old.
Right.
No.
No.
Why wouldn't? Because we'd harm ourselves. It's exactly the same, honey.
Exactly right. No, it's a very, very good point. Very well made. Marilyn, great to see you. I'm going to kick you off now. Is that all right? Because Russell Quirk is here, right? Because the empire is expanding, right? Russell Quirk has got a show at 10 o'clock. I give you permission to go on with him, but not too much, okay? Because obviously, I want to keep you all to myself, if that's possible. But have a lovely time. We'll see you soon. I blame Charlotte, by the way, if you haven't done Plonk of the Week for a while, because apparently it's down to her.
I had a text from Chris Walkie this morning saying, why on Plonk?
Okay, all right. Well, listen, we'll see what we can do.
All right, then. Take care.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Lots of love. Thank you very much indeed. Now, coming up, you'll have a meltdown from me because I've got things to say about this child safety plan of Keir Starmer's. But also, we've got a poll going as well. Do we have an update on the poll? See how we're doing? Here we go. What have you missed most about Mike? His wild hair, 34%. Sparkling wit, 56%, sniffles 5%, and the lisp 4%. People used to say I had a lisp, but it wasn't me. It was the funny microphone that we were using. Anyway, listen, never mind that. Russell Quirk is here.
Welcome back.
Hello. Listen, what a great day this is, right? Because not only
it's an auspicious one.
Not only are you starting your first ever show of your own on our new network, UK Live Online, But, you know, we can celebrate last week. You did a brilliant job. I know I keep saying it. I know you're probably sick of hearing it, but it was fantastic.
When the phone rang on Friday and you rang, I thought, am I in for a bollock? How much of this audience did I lose? It was right.
No, it was brilliant. No, it was fantastic.
Very supportive.
Well, we've just gone through 26 million this morning. So, you know, we basically moved from 25 to 26 in the week you were here. So you did $1 million.
Yeah. So it's all down to me.
It's all down to you. Absolutely.
All right, look, so 10 o'clock it all happens. And look, what a kind of a development, what a new stage for this project. It's fantastic.
Totally.
So, kind of...
And a new studio. I came in this morning, and for some reason the normal front door wasn't working, so I came in that way, and I could smell this kind of strong smell of chemicals coming out of the. It looks fantastic.
To use a youngster's colloquial, it was banging.
It does look banging. Very good.
Wait till you see it. Honestly, it's very different to this. Actually.
Yeah, it is. Pooch has played a blinder as usual. Has created yet another space.
Yeah. So I'm trying to kind of toy with how we make the show as good as yours, but different enough not just to be the Mike Graham show.
Well, listen, you've got Esther Krakow on for a start, which is great. I've been trying to get her on ever since we've been on January. But I know that's great. You used to do a podcast with her, I think. Yeah.
It didn't quite come off. I think
She's great, though. Give her my regards. Sorry, guys. Oh, are you changing the microphones?
Shall I just do that?
Yeah, do that.
So this is going to happen a lot between 10 and 12, right? So you remember, obviously, when you started, there were a couple of little glitches, but we put those down to character.
Well, this is why they thought I had a list. They thought I had a list because he gave me this.
I've never heard anyone say you got a list.
Specifically effeminate microphone, so that I'd get a whole new audience of men who would like me, which worked well. But no, listen, it's a great day, and I couldn't be happier. And thanks to Pooch and to Charlotte and to now Scarlett, as well as Elaine. I mean, we've now got this little burgeoning kind of movement going on.
Yeah, and then Mark after me, Mark Littlewood with World Cupper, so that'll be fantastic. And for all those that aren't really football fans, watch it anyway, because I'm not a football fan, but I will watch it because
it's going to be funny.
Yeah. And a bit political, bit of banter.
Yeah, it's not like the woke ITV kind of BBC nonsense that you're going to see.
And it's a Lineker-free zone.
I don't know if he's got any lesbians on it, but I think they're all working in mainstream media at the moment. But anyway, listen, I don't want to upset you, but listen, Russell Quirk. So what else is on the show? What's the plan?
We're going to try and provide a mix of, obviously, look, there's some serious stuff, as there always is. Last week, as you know, obviously, we picked a very good week to be off, actually, in terms of the kind of hard news, the kind of real kind of serious stuff. But we're going to mess about a little bit, actually. Look, I'll leave it up to...
Well, that's the great thing, isn't it? Because the thing I love about all of this is that it's whatever you want it to be. There's no restriction. When you used to be at Talk, and I did, and even when you go and do shows on other platforms, there's a kind of rule-based system, whereas we don't really have one. Which is kind of refreshing.
But also, I mean, I think you'd agree, in fairness to Talk, we were never really told what to say. Unless it was a legal thing.
Oh, no.
But it was, you'd come in, and certainly for me, covering shows, when I covered other people's shows, it was very much prescriptive. So the producers had decided what you were going to say. That's not the case here. Not only is there no Ofcom telling us what we can and can't say, telling you what you should or shouldn't think, but we all muck in. And, the night before and the morning of, it's, well, should we do that? Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a laugh, let's try it. So my show at 10 o'clock will be very experimental, so bear with it, and we'll get it right. It might take a few weeks, but we'll get it right.
You will. And also the great thing is that we've got a very loyal audience who love what we do and who are willing to give us a chance. And if you do mess it up a little bit, they don't really mind. And the great thing is as well, for us, Emma Wolf was in this morning talking about how this is really the only place where you can talk about Makerfield. Every other place...
Or Belfast and the real ins and outs of Belfast,
right.
And talking about the fact that the left-wing media and the politicians of this world that most are leaning left have decided that it's not really about illegals coming here beheading people, it's all about the far right. And we cover that extensively from a different perspective last week, and we'll continue to do that. So no rules, no Ofcom, no censorship. Let's do it.
Go for it. Brilliant. Well, congratulations. And you need to get your own coffee machine as well. We keep running in here getting coffee.
You see, the rivalry started already. Don't nick me guests, don't nick me coffee. Anything else? I quite like... No, there's a coat stand over there that I quite fancy. I might have that.
Well, we've got plenty of coasters. You can have some coasters. In fact, I've got a coaster. Somebody sent me a coaster with my face on it.
Oh, really?
I'll give you
I'll
that
have
one.
that, shall I?
You can have
That's
that.
right, you can keep that. Well, I'm going. Bye.
Okay, see you later. Russell Quirk, 10 o'clock. The first handover, right? Of the whole empire. So isn't that brilliant? 10 o'clock. He's got some great guests, including Lembit Opik and also Esther Krakow as well. And one of the guys who calls himself the British Hindu, or is it the other one? I can't remember. Anyway, listen. Barry says Ofcom free. Enjoy it while you can. Here's a good one. Pedant of the day from Band. His mic is getting smaller. Is the chair too low? The chair is exactly the same. The chair has literally never moved, right? I mean, it's me that moves, right? So if I move a little bit, for example, that way, how do you think I'm smaller? Well, maybe I've just lost a bit of weight, you know. How about this from...
That one.
Hey, what's that one?
On screen.
Russell looks like a giant. Well, I don't... It must have been a funny angle or something.
It's the angle of the wide... It's a wide angle lens.
Oh, okay. I mean, I've never been described as a dwarf before, but thank you.
Now.
Yeah, now I have. Here's one. Chris left the UK, living in Thailand, he says. Mike, why isn't anyone asking questions about Andy, the King of the North, and his net zero rubbish and open borders? Well, there's a reason for that, right? One of the problems, and I've said this many times, you know, people aren't allowed to talk about it. So because of Ofcom, if you go onto any of the mainstream channels, and I would include Talk and GB News in that, they are ruled by Ofcom, right? So you can't have a proper, sensible conversation about an upcoming election until after it's been held. So you have what's called purdah for a month, right? So for a month before the election, if you even mention one of the candidates, what you certainly can't do is be derogatory about them or praise them. And then you have to mention all the other candidates that are running in the same election. It's a kind of mad system. Whereas we don't have to do that because we're not governed by Ofcom. So I can tell you that I think Andy Burnham is a waste of space, and I think he's a charlatan, and I think he's an absolute and utter no-mark who shouldn't be put in charge of a Welk stand, never mind being put in charge of Manchester, and certainly not being put in charge of the country. I can say all that, but you couldn't say that on any other channel, right? Unless you're on a YouTube channel. And of course, me with the biggest breakfast show on YouTube, there's nobody else really out there that you're going to listen to. But the bottom line for me is that newspapers are not subject to that. So newspapers can do anything they like. And as I said, I told a story earlier when I was running the Mirror in Wales. We put a special edition of the Mirror into Anglesey because the Labour government or the Labour Party at the time were worried they were going to lose Anglesey. And the front page just said, vote Labour. Front of the Daily Mirror. Plaid Cymru weren't very happy about it, but it wasn't a breach, apparently, of the Electoral Commission and their rules. So the broadcasting rules are not fit for, I would say, modern democracies. But you might wonder whether this, in fact, is a modern democracy. Let's talk to David Vance, who may have a view on that particular scenario. David, very good morning to you. Welcome to the Mike Graham Show.
Yes, Mike, good morning to you, and thank you very much for having me on. Good to see you. Not at all.
Not at all. Great to have you on. It is weird, isn't it, that we now live in a world which, I mean, it's Keir Starmer standing up this morning talking about safeguarding children by banning them from using social media. I mean, it's a bit late, isn't it? Isn't it sort of the horse has already bolted out of the stable and run 100 miles down the road?
Yeah, he didn't exactly ban them from Muslim rape gangs now, did he, Mike? Isn't it strange, his idea of protecting children? Yeah. But I mean, everything with this guy, Mike, Starmer is patently unfit to be a prime minister of this country. You know, he's an authoritarian bureaucrat desperate to try and preserve his job. It's all just a bit pathetic. But I'll tell you what, we deserve better, don't we? The people of the United Kingdom, we shouldn't have to put up with this. We just shouldn't.
No, I mean, some people would say, and I'm not one of them, by the way, that we sort of brought it upon ourselves because, I mean, I go all the way back to Tony Blair, where I think that Tony Blair and the whole Blair project was deliberately designed to make people completely lose interest in politics. And so they didn't really engage with it for a long time. And suddenly, before you know where you are, Blair's completely reconstructed Britain. He's then somehow passed the baton over to David Cameron, who was Blair in a blue suit, you know. And we've sort of lost control, and this is where we get to.
No, you're absolutely right. It's been a slow burn. It's been a slow burn since Tony Blair came in with his so-called Cool Britannia New Labour project, which was about the destruction of Britain, Mike. You know, I mean, I vehemently opposed devolution, and now we've just look at how disastrous devolution has proved. When we look at what's happening in Scotland and we look at what's happening in Wales, let alone what's happening in Northern Ireland, you know. So yes, you're dead right. You can trace it all the way back to when Blair entered Downing Street, or even if you want, back to whenever they booted Thatcher out. Actually, you could almost trace it back to there. And we live now, you know, at this point in the history of it.
Yeah, exactly right. And I'm not sure how we get out of it, really, because I've obviously sort of said to people the only chance we've got is to try and force an early election, try and get these bozos out of Parliament early enough. And it seems to me the only viable alternative, really, is the Reform Party. Now, you may not agree with that. I know there are certain people on the right who think Reform have sold out and they don't really do what they said they would do. I'm not one of them either, because I think, there's a limit to how you can, it took a while for us to get to here, and I think it will take a while to reverse it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, see, ultimately, Mike, I'm a pragmatist. You see, I don't care. I don't have allegiance to any party. I've got an allegiance to the country. So if reform can do it, that's great. If reform need pressure from others, that's great as well. But the one thing that has to happen, Mike, is we have to have change. I mean, this country feels, and the part of it that I live in, feels like a tinderbox. And as you know, tinderboxes in the summer have an unfortunate relationship with each other. So, as I say, I'm not going to beat a drum for any particular party. I'm very clear on the things that need to be done, however. And whoever does them, that's fine by me, as long as they are done.
Right. Are you in Northern Ireland still at the moment then? Yeah. I wasn't sure if you were, but obviously I wanted to ask you about that, because I've been sort of slightly making fun of, although it's more dangerous than that, the Sinn Féin position on all of this. So you seem to have gone from being mad, sort of terrorist nationalists to now kind of such leftists that they think that the big problem is not a man trying from Sudan to cut somebody's head off on their streets, but people who would say that that's a bad thing.
Sinn Féin is completely captured by a globalist agenda. You just have to look at everything that they say and do, Mike. They're pro-open borders, they're pro-mass uncontrolled migration. The island of Ireland, both parts of it, where I live in the north and in the south, it's being changed at a rate of knots. In ways it's unrecognisable. Mike, you take yourself to Dublin in 2026 and you will not see the Dublin that I have very fond memories of from even only 15, 20 years ago. Right. And Sinn Féin, presided over that. They're a bunch of unspeakable hypocrites. And one of the things that got me last week when we had the lively, fiery, but mostly peaceful protests, I think is what they call it, isn't it? Here, last week. Right. Yeah. Sinn Féin came out and said, all these people with masks, it shouldn't be allowed. And Mike, at that point, irony dies.
Yes. Well, I actually put out a message that said, the IRA literally invented the balaclava funeral, and Sinn Féin is, whether they like to admit it or not, is the political wing of the IRA. It always has been. Whether Jerry Adams doesn't remember that or not is not my problem. But he was also at the peace protests, which I found even more ironic. Sitting there looking for all the world like, the sort of the godfather of peace. And you kind of go, really?
Those protests that you mentioned, we saw over the weekend, been very interesting. This was a coordinated campaign by all the usual suspects, the Irish Republicans, the militant Irish Republicans, the trade unions, the hard left, the BBC, whose reporter, a lady called Mary-Louise Connolly, actually, you talk about, Ofcom control and all that. She put a tweet out the other day. There was a rally by these pro-open borders people at Belfast City Hall. She put a tweet out saying, we need to see more of this. Oh my goodness, such impartiality from the BBC. And the thing about it is, Mike, they expose themselves as the enemy of the people. Most decent people in Northern Ireland, we don't want to see violence, obviously, but we cannot live with uncontrolled migration. Like, this is the point that I wanted to say to you. You probably get it, but I guess just for all your viewers and listeners as well, Mike, there is an open border between the Irish Republic and Northern Ireland. This Sudanese, wannabe head chopper offer, he got the bus into the UK. Yeah. He got the bus.
Right.
And he could have been in a bus full of them because there's no checks. There's zero border checks. Right. So he came to Belfast, Mike, and he hung out, presumably on welfare for a few years here. But he could have got the ferry to Liverpool, and then he could have gone to Manchester or London or whatever. So we are exposed on the western flank as well as the southern flank. And maybe I would hope that this incident shows people that, if you don't have a border, we physically have no border.
Yeah.
Then,
well, this is it. And do you remember at the time when Brexit was being organised, if you like, in 2019, and arguments that were being made by Sinn Féin, amongst others, that, you can't put a border here, you can't put a border checkpoint because it'll raise the ugly head of terrorism again. And they effectively just went, oh, right, okay then. Well, we don't want that. So we better not have a border. It's madness. And I said it at the time. I said, this is complete and utter BS because, frankly, if you're not going to put a border in because the IRA say they're going to blow it up, then what sort of country have you got?
Well, I'm old enough to remember, Mike, back in 1995, there was the great BSE scare back then. And the Irish government...
I remember it well. I used to come to Belfast quite a lot in those days, and I used to have to put my feet through those disinfected dishes. Do you remember? You'd come off the plane, and you'd put your feet in this little dish, and like that was going to stop for BSE. It was amazing.
But the Irish government said, "Oh, we're gonna put a ring of steel around the border to stop the British cows that may have BSE coming to the south." So when it suited the Irish government, they were quite happy to seal the government. The fact is that, or the border. The fact is, at the moment though, there's this massive border, and bear in mind that, as you know, Mike, the Irish Republic just voted the other day to be actively in the EU Migration Pact, meaning Brussels will determine how many migrants go to Ireland. Well, Mike, once they're in Ireland, then some of them will come here, and we don't even know how many. It could be thousands, it could be tens of thousands. We don't know. Yeah. And yet, it took this one incident where this guy, the Sudanese guy, tried to cut the head of the chap in Belfast. It took that to really show that the people of Northern Ireland will not sit back and take this. We're not placid. We will not, just go along with their own destruction. We're not going to do it. And the BBC can demonize us as far right extremists. We just don't. We just want to live in a civilized country, Mike, where your kids or your family can go out in the streets and you don't have to worry about having your head cut off. That's not unreasonable, and we won't put up with it.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think the rest of the UK is kind of catching up in a way with that because, I mean, again, I've said this a couple of times on the show this morning. I was away last week in Cyprus, and when you're away, you kind of get a slightly different perspective on what's going on. And it was every day there was something terrible that had happened. Either another stabbing, a young girl was stabbed in the neck by another one of these migrants in a town in the north of England. Was it Burnley? Yeah. Then there was, of course, the beheading incident. Then there was something else going on. There was another attack. Somebody else was raped. I mean, it's like every bloody day now. And people have had enough, and they simply have decided that they're not going to, as you say, listen to the BBC and listen to, I mean, look at the way the Nowak story was reported by the sort of mainstream media, They just didn't get it, and the politicians don't get it either.
But I think the politicians know, Mike, that a lot of people now, disregard the propaganda from the mainstream media, BBC, Sky, all of that. They disregard that. And they will turn to other sources like you, and even people like myself that put stuff up. And that's, I think, part of the reason why STARMER, whilst he pretends to be wanting to keep kids safe online, that's not the agenda. The agenda is, if he can possibly do it, control us, or limit people coming to us. That's the agenda. So we live in a dysfunctional country, and those like yourself and others who want to help point out what needs to be fixed, or the people that they want to squeeze. Now, whether they succeed or not, from the success of your own show, I don't think they do. It tends to be counterproductive. I was banned, Mike, from X, Twitter, back in 2020. I came back 3 times bigger. You know what I mean? So you can't keep us down.
They can't, because they don't understand. He wants to, already the teaching unions have gone against STARMER's idea of banning people from YouTube because they said, kids use YouTube as a resource. What sort of world do you think you live in, you complete and utter moron? There's people getting raped over here, but you want to stop them from using the phone. Really? Get a grip, man. But you're right, it's too late. The cat's out of the bag, the genie's out of the bottle, whatever you want to call it. They can't keep us down, short of literally launching themselves into some kind of fascist state where they just shut down all the media,
Yeah, but I think actually if they could do that, they would do that.
Oh, they would,
there's no doubt about that in my mind, They know that they're losing their grip, Mike, because people will come and watch you, and they will go elsewhere and get information. And it's no longer, that BBC newsreader telling you that, and that's the news, the way that it is. It's not that anymore.
No.
And history we will be the winners in this, Mike, because, I think history will prove that the determination to push propaganda through legacy media was a big, big mistake. And best way we deal with it, though, as you pointed earlier, is we need to change this government. And my worry, quite honestly, is I can't see it happening before 2029. Can't see how, unless financial crisis, which is always possible.
It is possible, I think. Yeah.
How broken will we be then? 3 years of Andy, King of the North, Burnham in Downing Street. God forbid.
Oh my God,
maybe Ed Miliband is Chancellor, or maybe that's a good thing. People.
Well, that might hasten their demise. Is all I'm thinking.
Yeah. That's the argument.
And then we'll go in with a broom and a hoover and sweep it all up and put them all in the dustbin and start again.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's a cheerful approach to take to it. That if it can't get bad enough, basically, Mike, because then and sometimes there is that law of physics, isn't it? Equal forces. So maybe we need to go through these horrors. But on a serious note, when you have like that, a 17-year-old girl in Burnley being attacked, or that 40-year-old man in Belfast being attacked so badly and losing his eyes and stuff. I'm not sure just how much of that the country can take. It's just horrific. I know what it was like here. And by the way, although the media mainstream are trying to say it's all calmed down, all you good little Northern Irelanders have gone back to sleep. No, that's not the case at all. There's more protests coming this week. Not BBC authorised protests.
Yes.
Not the kind of protests. Protests of people saying, no, look, why are you dumping uncontrolled migration into our areas? Mike, it happened last year. You may have cast your mind back. There was an issue in a place called Ballymena last year where there was a bit of a flare-up, and then that went away. The people that caused the flare-up went away. And now I understand that quite a few migrants have decided to leave Northern Ireland in the aftermath of last week. And I guess we'll cope with the loss, Mike. It's going to be tough to find sufficient brain surgeons and rocket scientists. But if we can, we will cope.
They've all gone to America to work for Elon Musk, right?
Well, nature's healing. When I see the departures, I just conclude, nature's healing itself, as Elon Musk might say.
Indeed, absolutely right. David, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good day. David Vance there reporting in from Northern Ireland, or Northern Ireland, as we used to call it. Brilliant. Great guy. Great guest today, by the way, Charlotte. Thank you very much indeed. Now, before we talk to Johnny Gould, who's our last guest of the day, who's got some very important things to say, let's have a bit of a meltdown, shall we? From today. So, Keir Starmer has a press conference today at 8 a.m. A bit early normally for him. And it's interesting how he's decided to approach it, because there's a tweet that he's put out in which he says, "We are banning social media access for under 16s. These days, kids must find their feet in a world where technology intrudes into every area of their life." Then he says, "I just can't let that go on anymore, so we're giving children their childhoods back." What? Now, in his address to the nation, he's wearing even more weird clothes than he normally does. He's wearing like a sort of white round-necked T-shirt by the looks of it, and some kind of bizarre-looking cardigan on the outside. But here's a clip from his actual press conference.
That no child ever logs onto social media again. No. But look, this might shock you, but it doesn't shock parents of teenagers. They get around other laws too. But we don't say, oh, look, a teenager managed to get a drink somehow, so let's not bother banning alcohol sales to children. We don't do that, do we? That would be utterly ridiculous. And so I just don't accept that argument. Laws are rules, but they're also an expression of our values. They shape the social contract. And so this will change the conversations that parents have and the expectations of children over time.
So, in sort of summation, Keir Starmer has once again made an announcement that is not worth the paper that it's not written on, right? Is that a bell tolling for him. Yeah, it's time for you to get out, Starmer. That's the Starmer bell. Maybe we should have that, to ring the Starmer bell to get him out. Because here's what he's apparently going to do. Children will be prevented from chatting with strangers on platforms not covered by the ban, such as gaming apps as well as live streaming. Apparently, under 16s will be banned from all the main social media platforms, including Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook and X. Well, first of all, how's he going to manage that, right? There is no chance of that happening. Messaging apps like WhatsApp and Signal will not be included. So under 16, you can have a WhatsApp conversation with somebody then, which could include all manner of terrible things. Children will be prevented from chatting with strangers on platforms not covered by the ban. The latter functionalities will also be blocked by default. How are they going to do all of this, right? And then, of course, here's the kicker. The real kicker is the ban should be in force in the early part of next year, probably about springtime. Right? He's hoping, aiming, he says, to pass the regulations before Christmas. Okay, let me tell you, Mr. Starmer, that this date, June the 15th, should be marked because it's basically the middle of the year. You're saying that you can't get these rules put in place in 6 months. What are you going to be doing in the intervening period? I can tell you what you're going to be doing. Nothing. Because you're going to be out of a job. So you won't even be in charge of the government come Christmas. I've got a bet, of course, as you well know, which we might have to resurrect for next Monday for Emma Wolf, where I say Keir Starmer is gone before the summer, which means I've only got until June the 21st, which is obviously next weekend after the election, and Makerfield on the 18th, which is Thursday, right? Now, it's entirely possible that he'll be out of a job because if Andy Burnham wins that election, he has said in the papers today on front page of the Times that he will make a challenge to Keir Starmer immediately. And Keir Starmer has such little support inside of his own party that he will have to stand aside. So it's entirely possible, and I'm still going to bet the house on it, that if Andy Burnham wins the election in Makerfield on Thursday night, that Starmer will be gone by Saturday, which means I win the bet, which would be an extraordinary comeback for me. Even if he's not gone by June the 21st, he certainly won't be around at Christmas, which is when he says these laws will be changed. And then it turns out that none of them will actually come into effect until the spring. Well, that could be any time up until about this time next year. So once again, Keir Starmer has made a complete fool of himself. He's making statements that he can't back up, in the same way that he said he was going to cut welfare, but then he didn't. In the same way that he said that he was going to increase the defence budget, but he didn't. In the same way that he said he was going to stop the boats, but he didn't. In the same way he said he was going to smash the gangs, but he didn't. In the same way as he said that he was going to create a government of transparency, which he didn't. And of course, making sure that every single department was ready for action as soon as he got into power July of 2024, which he wasn't. So this character, Starmer, has been a complete and utter disaster, right? Absolutely not even a mark in between can you make in which you could say, well, he did this quite well, didn't he? Because he hasn't done anything well. Even his own party want rid of him. Even his own government wants rid of him. Even his own Secretary of State for Defence thinks he's useless. That's why he left. That's why he quit. And now we might end up being forced to put up with Andy Burnham as a Prime Minister. Can you imagine? Old angry Burnham looks like Captain Black from the Mysterons. He's got about as much charisma as a dead fish. And he knows nothing about running the country. He's tried to be leader of the Labour Party twice and lost. He's tried to get himself into positions of power before, but he's never managed it. He's been Minister of State. He's been in all sorts of Blair governments. He was an aide in the first Blair government in 1997. He's been a Labour MP on and off for decades. He's done nothing good for anyone. So the idea that Burnham is the answer can only suggest that the question was a bloody stupid one. That's what I'm saying. So, here we are. Look, there's a beautiful face to see on my return from holiday. Mr. Johnny Gould, very good morning to you.
Oh, it's so great to see you. Welcome back, Mike, with splendid suntan. Do not adjust your sets.
It's the closest I've been to Israel for some time. And funnily enough, you don't realise quite how close it is until you kind of look over there and go, blimey, I think if you get some binoculars, I could probably see Gaza, you know. And as a result, Cyprus is actually quite quiet because I didn't realise this until after I got there, that it's been put on a kind of it's not quite a watch list, but it's one of those, you know, it's close enough to the troubled area that it might actually be a place you don't want to go. But it was brilliant, really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably see Lebanon and northern Israel, Haifa, more likely geographically. But the one thing that I noticed, not just about Cyprus, but also about Greece, is that they are both nominally pro-Israel on the streets.
Yeah.
There are their local flags, the Cyprus flag with its map of the country, the Greek flag. I went to Rhodes this time last year, and more than the European flag is the Greek flag flying absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
And among the nations that flew outside our hotel, there were 8 flags. You'd expect the Dutch, the Swedish, the Germans, the British, the French flags of all the tourists. There was also the Israeli flag, and there was Hebrew on the menus. So they're not perturbed or worried about all this nasty Palestinianism which affects our streets. They are nominally pro-Israel, and I guess you must have found that in Cyprus too, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a lovely place. It was just, what I noticed was it didn't seem fraught with sort of angst, which is what Britain has now become. You know, I didn't fear walking around the streets in case, you know, I turned around and there was somebody there that might want to cut my head off. You know, it was, you know, there were no traffic jams. There was no kind of, you know, Palestinian flags. I didn't see one Palestinian flag flying, that's for sure.
That's right.
And, you know, it was just a very kind of idyllic place to me. And it seemed, and what I've been saying through the show this morning is it kind of focuses your mind and you go, well, how bad has Britain got right now, you know?
You know, when you go abroad and you see a different agenda, a different society, you realize how infected we have become by our media. And, you know, Israel and the Jewish community is constantly portrayed as the baddie in kind of subliminal ways. Like, for instance, when they were talking about the Peter Mandelson issue a couple of weeks ago, they don't just talk about the facts. They talk about the friends he had and they grouped Israel with Russia and China. Now, the last time I looked, and in particular when it comes to intelligence for countries at war, Israel must remain an ally of this country in the same way that I guess Ukraine should, with its remarkable achievements in drone technology over the last 3 to 5 years. And the same goes for Israel. When Sandhurst bans officer class Israeli IDF personnel from being part of their organization, then they're cutting their noses off to spite their face. We have to remember that in a time of war, it's the countries at war that produce the necessity of the mother invention, and they will help us in our military advancements.
Well, exactly right. And even the World Cup hasn't escaped, has it, from the anti-Israeli brigade? Pro-Palestinian activists saying that Israel should be kicked out of FIFA, even though they're not actually in the World Cup.
No, Israel isn't on the pitch at the World Cup, but if you look at the VAR technology and the various other parts of the digital parts of the World Cup, shall we say, Israel is written through it like a stick of rock. You know, a lot of that technology was created in terms of aerial warfare, of digital warfare. Like I've just mentioned before, there is a connection between peacetime advancement in our digital economies and other advancements in our general economies, and the tragedy of war, because it provides you with a platform to think harder about how you're going to beat off your enemy from a defensive point of view. So Israel is writ large in the World Cup, whether these morons like it or not.
Exactly,
you know?
right. Now, what do you make of the events of, say, the last sort of 48 hours or so? Trump championing this morning that the Iran peace deal has apparently been done, but also kind of being slightly, I don't know what you would describe it as. He was sort of slightly scolding Benjamin Netanyahu for firing some rockets at Lebanon, saying he shouldn't have done it. What's the situation there?
Well, Trump is fighting his own war, and it is obviously about the world's resources it's about oil. We've seen that before with Venezuela, and now we're seeing it with the Straits of Hormuz for America to fight a war over the world's resources where it possibly can. For Israel, its war is one of existential survival, and its front line extends not just to Iran, where America's is, of course, it extends to the north of the country, not far from where you were on holiday, in Lebanon, where Hezbollah still are an issue south of the Litani River. And that is why Israel has gone as far as the Litani River, and even I'm understood to know gone a bit further to try and get rid of this terror threat. And they've done it very successfully over the last year or so. But the war is not over, and we've come to the moment, I think, Mike, where Netanyahu's policy domestically over the last year or so has been, well, at some point, we are going to lose America as an ally. It may not be under the Trump watch. It might be the way it's going. They are gently falling out, and rather visibly in some ways, unfortunately. But Israel has come to the conclusion that if the Democrats ever get back into power in America, and that's obviously very highly likely, if J.D. Vance becomes the next president of the United States, which again is likely, and he's much more of an isolationist president who appeals to the right of the Republican Party, then Israel must begin to think about fending for itself and creating the military technology to go in-house. If you like, it's the globalization that we've heard so much about in the economy now coming to the military economy of Israel. I mean, it's true that America wasn't always Israel's number one ally before 1967. Believe it or not, you wouldn't believe it, but this is the truth. Israel's number one ally between 1948 and 1967 was France.
Yeah.
And that changed after the 67 war, and it's been America ever since. But you know, these things change. Policies change. What's very interesting is since the UAE have been attacked, Abu Dhabi and Dubai, they've become much, much closer, the UAE, with Israel, and it's really reinforced the Abraham Accords treaty of 5 years ago. So that has to be good news for the region, at least one part of it, the Gulf around the south of the region.
Well, a lot of observers thought that the October 7th attack in 2023 was entirely down to the closeness that was emerging between the UAE and Israel, and they didn't like it in Iran, and they wanted to disrupt it, and that's what they've sent Hamas in to do all those terrible, awful things. Funny enough, I just watched the Helen Mirren film about Golda Meir at the weekend, which is a fabulous movie, by the way. If anybody hasn't seen it, you should watch it. And she is Golda Meir. I mean, I remember growing up as a kid and seeing her on TV and stuff. And I mean, you think it's her. But it's also quite an interesting history lesson for anyone who thinks that, you know, Israel is the aggressor in this situation and has always been. Because, you know, when you look at what could have happened there in the Yom Kippur War, and, you know, obviously we don't get into too much of it at this point because we've got 2 minutes left. But, you know, it's an incredible period of history, which I kind of lived through in a way as when I was growing up, you know.
It's funny because Nicholas Martin, who is the screenwriter of that film, brought in Dame Helen Mirren, to play that role and has become an expert. He is of your generation, Mike, and he lived it through history, and he became sympathetic to Israel's story. And thank goodness he did, because he has made a film of record. I'm glad you watched it too, Mike.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Highly recommended. Anyway, listen, I'll leave you a football question for the end. I don't know if Aston Villa's got anybody playing at the World Cup, but have you got any? Have you got any tips for who you're following, who you're supporting?
Well, of course, I am, like all of us, an England fan. I've got one eye on Scotland. John McGinn of Aston Villa scored the winning goal for the Scots against Haiti, which puts the Scots in the box seat.
Went in off a few people, didn't it?
It did, but they all count. And all that Scotland have got to do is keep a clean sheet against Morocco when they go where no other Scot has gone before, and that's to the next round of competition. England play Croatia on Wednesday night. England to win a much tougher game, but we've gone there to win it. 60 years of hurt.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, fascinating stuff. Well, don't forget, we've got Mark Littlewood. Maybe you should go on his show, actually, because Mark Littlewood's doing a show called The World Cupper every day from midday on UK Online Live, or UK Live Online, I should say. So we'll get him to give you a shout and get you on there. So great to see you, Johnny. Thank you very much indeed.
As you, Mike.
It's 9:58. Is somebody having a crash out here, by the way? What's going on? I keep hearing children weeping and crying, wailing, and none of them are mine, by the way. As far as I'm aware, they're all too old for that sort of thing. So what now? So this is the first day we're going to do handing over to UK News Online. So how's that going to work exactly?
Click the link in the chat.
Oh, so okay. So you click the link in the chat. Is that there yet?
It should automatically be there.
Okay. Because I'm looking for it. So what you want to do is you obviously want to like this channel. And so many of you watching today, so thank you for that. And this is the Mike Graham Show. But the new channel is UK Live Online. And so what you need to do is move over to there every day at 10 o'clock when I finish, and you can watch Russell Quirk for the next 2 hours. The Quirk Report, today starring Lembit Opik and Esther Kraku. It's going to be a great show, followed, of course, then by Mark Littlewood at midday, who's going to bring you all the news and the thrills and the spills from the World Cup. But it won't be like any other World Cup show. Think more kind of, Baddiel and Skinner. Think more comedy value. Think more, never mind the Buzzcocks, if that's the kind of thing you like, rather than Match of the Day or, ITV Sport, because it's not going to be like that at all. So all we've got to do is look for the brilliant show, starts of the week, says Sean. Thank you very much indeed. Be interesting to see Russell's viewing stats, says Paul. Yes, indeed. Don't forget to switch over at 10 o'clock to UK Live and Russell Quirk, says Simon. I'm just looking for the button to do it, and then we'll do it. Because this is what we used to do before. I'm not seeing it. Are you seeing it?
Well, you have to close it and it'll go onto it. So.
We have to close it?
Yeah, say bye.
Am I saying goodbye?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't switched over yet.
I have to press.
So I just have to say goodbye. All right then. Goodbye. See you tomorrow.